Chapter 1. The Voice in Your Head. It is 3:14 a.m., and you are staring at the ceiling. There is a knot in your stomach that you can't quite name. It's not hunger. It's not pain. It's something older, something that feels like a low humming dread. You replay the conversation you had earlier today. It was with a colleague or a friend or maybe your partner. It was a perfectly normal interaction. Nothing bad happened. They smiled. They said goodbye. But your mind isn't replaying the smile. It's replaying the look in their eyes right before they turned away. Was that a flicker of annoyance? You wonder, did I talk too much? Did I bore them? Did they notice that thing I said about you close your eyes and try to quiet the noise? It doesn't work, because the noise isn't a thought. It's a voice. And it sounds just like you, which is the cruelest trick of all, because it convinces you that this is just who you are. Who do you think you are? You're not as smart as they think you are. You're going to mess this up. You always do. They're just being nice to you out of pity. If they really knew you, they would leave. You've tried to argue with this voice. You've tried to fight it. You've armed yourself with affirmations. I am worthy. I am enough. And you've parroted them back in the mirror. But the voice just laughs. It has more stamina than you. It has been with you longer. It knows all your dirty secrets, all your insecurities, all the moments you wish you could erase. It doesn't feel like an argument. It feels like a fact. You might be reading this book because you have a quiet suspicion that other people don't live like this. You look at them, the ones who walk into a room like they own it, who stumble over their words and just laugh it off, who make mistakes and shrug, and you wonder what they have that you don't. You feel like there is a gap between you and the rest of humanity, a pane of glass. You can see them, you can reach out and touch them, but you can't feel them. You can't feel yourself. You feel like something is wrong with you. You feel like you don't measure up, that you aren't enough, that you have no inherent worth. And the cruelest part, the part that makes you want to throw this book across the room, is that you rationally know that isn't true. You have a job. You have people who love you. You have accomplishments, but the knowledge sits in your head and the feeling sits in your chest. They are two separate countries. I am writing this book because I know that country. I lived there for decades. I spent most of my early adulthood wearing a mask of competence. I was a high achiever. I could stand in front of a room of 500 people and deliver a speech without a tremor in my voice. I knew how to smile, how to charm, how to make people think I had it all together. But at night, when the mask came off, I was drowning. The voice in my head was a tyrant. It didn't just whisper, it screamed. It catalogued every mistake I had ever made, from the time I accidentally offended a friend in high school to the time I sent an email with a typo to a client. It told me I was a fraud, that my success was a fluke, that I was just one disaster away from being exposed as the incompetent imposter I really was. And then there were the reactions. I could be having a perfectly lovely evening with my partner, and suddenly a stray comment would hit me like a slap in the face. It wasn't a bad comment, it was innocuous. But my brain would interpret it as a threat. My heart would start pounding, my jaw would clench. And before I knew what was happening, I would snap. I would say something mean, or withdraw into a cold, stony silence. I would watch myself doing it, like a passenger in a car that was veering off the road, and I would think, why are you doing that? Stop it. Why are you so broken? But I couldn't stop it. It felt like the reaction was happening to me, not from me. I remember one specific night. I was cooking dinner, and my partner asked me a simple question about the recipe. I don't even remember the question. I just remember the feeling, a sudden irrational surge of fury. I slammed the knife down on the cutting board and walked out of the room. I sat on the floor of the bedroom, shaking. My partner didn't follow me. They knew better. I heard them turn off the stove and go sit in the living room, waiting for me to return to my body. And I sat there hating myself, not because I was angry, but because I couldn't control it, because that reaction wasn't me. It was something else, something feral and wounded that lived inside me. That was the moment I realized that I wasn't just stressed. I wasn't just moody. I wasn't just a difficult person. I was carrying a wound that I hadn't yet learned to see. I'm going to let you in on a secret. The voice in your head, the one that tells you you're not enough, it isn't your enemy. I know that sounds absurd. It feels like an enemy. It feels like a bully who lives rent-free in your mind. But I'm going to ask you to do something radical for the duration of this book. I'm going to ask you to suspend your judgment of that voice. What if, instead of a bully, that voice is a terrified child? What if it is a part of you that learned a very long time ago that the world is not safe? What if it learned that you have to be perfect to be loved? What if it learned that if you make a mistake, you will be abandoned, so it has to prevent you from making mistakes at all costs? You see, the voice is trying to protect you. It is using the only tools it has: fear and shame. It is trying to keep you small because, in the environment you grew up in, being small was the safest thing to be. If you were invisible, you couldn't be hit. If you were perfect, you couldn't be criticized. If you didn't need anything, you couldn't be rejected. The voice is a relic of a past survival strategy. It worked back then. It got you through, but now you are an adult. You are living in a different environment. You are relatively safe, and that relic, that ancient alarm system, is still going off. It's ringing a bell for a fire that burned out decades ago. In this book, we are going to go on a journey to find the source of that fire. We are not going to kill the voice. We are not going to silence it with brute force. We are going to do something far more powerful. We are going to understand it. We are going to trace its lineage back to the person or the circumstances that gave it birth. And when we understand why it is there, we can finally start to unburden it. This is a book about trauma, but not the trauma you see in the movies, not the dramatic headline-grabbing trauma of explosions or natural disasters. This is a book about complex trauma, the trauma that happens not in a single catastrophic event, but in the slow, steady drip of 1,000 small cuts. The trauma of having a parent who was emotionally unavailable, the trauma of being bullied for being too sensitive, the trauma of being told to stop crying when you needed to be held, the trauma of being neglected, not necessarily physically, but emotionally, where your feelings were minimized, ignored, or mocked. This is the trauma of not being seen. And when a child is not seen, when they are not mirrored, when they are not allowed to be exactly who they are, they learn a terrible lesson. I am wrong. I am bad. I don't deserve to exist. This lesson gets wired into the nervous system. It isn't just a thought, it's a felt sense. It is a physical tension in the jaw, a chronic tightening of the shoulders, a churning in the stomach that you've had for so long, you've forgotten it's there. If the voice I described at the beginning of this chapter sounds familiar to you, you are likely carrying wounded parts of yourself that are making daily life harder than it needs to be. They are causing you suffering. They are preventing you from relating to others in a healthy, calm, and authentic way. They are robbing you of the peace and joy that is your birthright. But here is the good news. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are not a mistake. You are a human being who adapted to survive a difficult environment. And the parts of you that are hurting, they are not monsters. They are children who need to be met with compassion. In the chapters ahead, we are going to meet those parts. We are going to learn their names, their ages, and their fears. We are going to learn how they took control of your life and how you can gently, carefully take that control back. I am going to guide you through this. I am going to use the wisdom of neuroscience, which shows us that the brain is plastic and can change. I am going to use the wisdom of internal family systems, which shows us that we are a family of parts, not a single monolithic identity. I'm going to use the wisdom of emotion-focused therapy, which shows us that we must feel our emotions to heal them. And I am going to use the wisdom of sensoromotor therapy, which shows us that the body is not just a vessel for the mind, it is the doorway to the soul. This is not a quick fix. This is not a think positive and you'll be fine kind of book. This is a book that asks you to be brave. It asks you to look at the parts of yourself you have locked in the basement and to open the door. But I promise you this. On the other side of that door is not a monster. It's just a little kid. And that little kid has been waiting a very long time for you to come home. Let's start walking. Chapter 2. What is complex trauma, really? When we hear the word trauma, we have a very specific, very cinematic image in our heads. We think of the soldier coming home from war, haunted by explosions. We think of the victim of a violent assault. We think of the survivor of a natural disaster. We think of a single, catastrophic, life-altering event that shatters a person's sense of safety in an instant. If this is your definition of trauma, it's likely that you read the introduction to this book and thought, well, that's not me. I never went through anything that bad. And that thought is precisely why you are suffering. Because the trauma I am talking about, the one that creates the voice in your head, the hypervigilance, the snap reactions, the profound sense of not enoughness, is not the trauma of a single event. It is the trauma of 1,000 small cuts. It is the trauma of a lifetime of small betrayals. This is called complex trauma, or CPTSD, and it is the single most misunderstood, underdiagnosed, and pervasive source of human suffering in the modern world. Let me tell you a story. The patient who didn't believe she had trauma. Clara, the same patient we will meet later, came to me with crushing anxiety. She was a high-powered attorney, a mother of 2, and by all external metrics, a tremendous success. But she felt like a fraud. She felt like she was drowning. In our first session, I asked her about her childhood. She described it as normal. She said, "My parents were great. They gave me everything. I had a privileged upbringing. I have no trauma." So I asked her to tell me about a typical evening in her home when she was 10 years old. She described it. Her father came home from work at 7 p.m. He was a successful businessman and he had a ritual. He would pour himself a scotch, sit in his chair, and read the newspaper. He did not speak to the children. If Clara or her siblings made a sound, laughed too loudly, ran through the room, asked a question, he would sigh heavily and look at his wife. His wife would immediately shush the children and usher them out of the room. Clara told me this story with a shrug. She said, "He was tired. He worked hard. It was fine." But I asked her to pay attention to her body as she told the story. She noticed her shoulders had crept up toward her ears. She noticed her jaw was clenching. She noticed a tightness in her chest. And then I asked her a question. "Clara, what did you learn in that moment when your father sighed and your mother shushed you?" She paused, and then her eyes filled with tears. "I learned that I was a bother. I learned that my presence was annoying. I learned that my needs, my noise, my existence was a burden to the people I loved." This is complex trauma. No one hit Clara. No one screamed obscenities at her. No one locked her in a closet, but every single night for 18 years, she received a message. "You are in the way. Your needs are too much. To be loved, you must be silent." This is the death by 1,000 cuts. Each cut on its own seems insignificant. You can't point to a single incident and say, "That is why I am broken." But over time, the accumulation of these micro-rejections creates a deep structural wound in the psyche. The difference between PTSD and CPTSD. To understand complex trauma, we must contrast it with what we call simple or single-event PTSD. PTSD is like a car crash. It happens once. It is a distinct, terrifying event. Afterward, you have flashbacks to that specific moment. The treatment involves processing that one memory. CPTSD is like having a leaky roof for 20 years. It happens slowly, invisibly. The damage is not confined to a single memory. It pervades the entire structure of the self. There is no single event to point to. The trauma is baked into the very fabric of your nervous system. CPTSD develops when we are exposed to prolonged, repeated, and often interpersonal trauma. This usually happens in childhood when we are most vulnerable and our brains are still developing. But it can also happen in adulthood, in situations like an abusive marriage or a toxic workplace. The key is that complex trauma involves a loss of safety that is chronic. And when safety is chronically absent, the developing psyche has to make adaptations. The invisible wounds. Let's get specific. What does complex trauma actually look like in a family or an environment? It looks like this. Emotional neglect. Your parents were physically present but emotionally absent. They didn't ask you how your day was. They didn't comfort you when you cried. They didn't tell you they were proud of you. They didn't see you. They saw a child who was supposed to perform, behave, and not make trouble. Chronic invalidation. You were told your feelings were wrong. You're too sensitive. Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. You're overreacting. You learned that your internal reality could not be trusted. Conditional love. You were loved, but only when you performed. If you got an A, you were praised. If you got a B, you were met with disappointment. Love became a currency you had to earn, not a birthright you were given. Unpredictability. Your parents' mood was a lottery. Some days they were loving, some days they were cruel. You walked on eggshells, constantly trying to figure out how to be good enough to avoid the storm. Enmeshment. Your parent treated you like a partner or a confidant. You were expected to manage their emotions, to solve their problems. You had no childhood of your own. Role reversal. You had to grow up too fast. You became the caretaker for a younger sibling or a depressed parent. You put your own needs on hold to keep the family afloat. Bullying. Not just at school, but at home. Siblings who tormented you, parents who mocked you. A constant sense of being the black sheep or the target. Microaggressions. The subtle, often unintentional, messages that you are unwelcome. The roll of the eyes, the sigh of exasperation, the dismissive wave of the hand. If you grew up in any of these environments, you likely developed what I call the survival self. The survival self is a clever adaptation. It is a mask you learn to wear to get your needs met, or to avoid punishment. You learn to be quiet. You learn to be perfect. You learn to make yourself small. You learn to read the room like a bomb disposal expert. This survival self worked. It got you through, but it came at a tremendous cost. You had to bury your true self. The good childhood. One of the most common things I hear in my practice is this. But I had a good childhood. I wasn't abused. Let me stop you right there. Abuse is not the only kind of wound. Neglect is often more damaging than abuse because neglect is harder to name. If a parent hits you, you know they are wrong. You can point to the bruise. But if a parent ignores you, you don't think, my parent is wrong. You think, I am unworthy of attention. The absence of something good can be as damaging as the presence of something bad. This is why so many successful, put-together people feel so empty inside. They were given everything material, the private school, the tutors, the vacations, but they were given nothing emotional. They were raised in a gilded cage, and they spent their whole lives trying to earn the love they never received. The core beliefs of complex trauma. When you are subjected to the 1,000 cuts of complex trauma, you develop what are called core beliefs. These are not intellectual beliefs. They are deep, emotional, visceral truths that live in your bones. I am fundamentally defective. The shame core. I am worthless. The deprivation core. I am unlovable. The abandonment core. I am a burden. The invisibility core. The world is dangerous. The hypervigilance core. People will leave me. The betrayal core. I cannot trust myself. The invalidation core. These beliefs are the bedrock upon which the voice in your head is built. The critic doesn't tell you you're worthless because it's mean. It tells you you're worthless because, in the environment you grew up in, that was a survival truth. If you believed you were worthy, you might have asked for something you needed. And in your family, asking for something was dangerous. It led to rejection. So you buried that belief and replaced it with a safer belief. I am worthless, so I will not ask for anything. The terrible things. I want to return to the title of this chapter. I said earlier, no, you don't have to have gone through terrible things for this to happen. I want to be careful here. I am not saying that terrible things don't count. I am not minimizing the experience of those who suffered severe physical or sexual abuse. Those are profound wounds, and they require profound healing. What I am saying is that the wound is not determined by the scale of the event, but by the impact on the child. A child is a tiny, defenseless organism. They have no frame of reference. They depend entirely on their caregivers for their sense of safety and survival. If that safety is compromised, even in small, invisible ways, the child's nervous system registers a threat. A child who is dismissed by a parent feels just as threatened as a child who is yelled at. A child who is ignored feels just as abandoned as a child who is left alone. The body does not differentiate between big T trauma and small t trauma. The body only knows one thing: I am not safe. So if you are reading this and you are thinking, but nothing that bad ever happened to me, I want you to pause. I want you to feel the resistance in your body. I want you to notice the part of you that wants to defend your parents. That defensiveness, that's a protector. It is a part of you that is still trying to keep the peace, still trying to be good, still trying to avoid the pain of acknowledging that your childhood wasn't as safe as you needed it to be. I am not asking you to demonize your parents. I am not asking you to rewrite history. I am asking you to simply acknowledge the impact. To say, yes, my parents did the best they could, and also I experienced pain in that environment. Both of those things can be true. When you can hold both truths at the same time, you begin to heal. Because you stop gaslighting yourself. You stop telling yourself that your pain isn't real. You validate the exile. Your trauma is valid. If you take nothing else from this chapter, I want you to take this. Your trauma is valid. The wound you carry is real. You don't have to prove it to anyone. You don't have to have a dramatic story to justify your suffering. The mere fact that you are suffering, that you feel unsafe, that you hear the voice, that you feel like you're not enough, is proof that something happened to you that shouldn't have happened, something that told you, in the language of your own nervous system, that you were not okay. In the next chapter, we are going to look at that nervous system. We are going to look at the biological, physiological reality of what happens when a child grows up in a state of chronic threat. Because once you understand the science of trauma, the experience of it stops feeling like a moral failing. It stops feeling like you are broken. It starts to feel like what it is: a natural, inevitable response to an unnatural, unsafe environment. And if it is a natural response, it can be undone. Not easily, not quickly, but surely. Chapter 3: The Developing Brain and the Survival Self. If I asked you to point to where your trauma lives, you might point to your chest or your stomach or your head. You might say, "It's in my thoughts." But you would be wrong. Trauma does not live in your thoughts. Thoughts are just the smoke. Trauma lives in the wiring. It lives in the nervous system. It lives in the body. To heal trauma, we have to understand the brain, not in a dry, academic way, but in a practical, deeply human way. We need to understand why it is so hard to just calm down. We need to understand why logic fails us when we are triggered. Let's do a quick Brain 101. The triune brain. We have a metaphor for the brain called the triune brain. It's not biologically precise, but it is conceptually useful. It breaks the brain into 3 layers, each built on top of the other. 1. The reptilian brain, brainstem. This is the oldest part. It is responsible for the most basic survival functions: breathing, heart rate, digestion, and the fight/flight/freeze response. It does not think. It reacts. It is fast. It cares about one thing. Am I going to die right now? 2. The mammalian brain, limbic system. This is the emotional brain. It is responsible for feelings, memory, and the attachment system. It's where the amygdala, the alarm bell, and the hippocampus, the context giver, live. It cares about one thing. Am I safe? Am I loved? 3. The human brain, neocortex. This is the thinking brain. It is responsible for logic, language, planning, and impulse control. It is the part that allows you to think about the future and reflect on the past. It cares about one thing. What is the best course of action? Here is the crucial piece. When you are in a state of safety, these 3 brains work together. The reptilian brain keeps you alive. The mammalian brain gives you feelings. The human brain makes sense of it all. But when you are in a state of threat, the hierarchical structure falls apart. The reptilian and mammalian brains take over. They flood your body with cortisol and adrenaline. They shut down the human brain. This is called going offline. It is the biological reason you can't think straight when you are triggered. The part of your brain that does the thinking has literally been deactivated. The developing brain. Now, here is where it gets specific to childhood trauma. The human brain is not fully formed at birth. It is a work in progress. The most crucial years of development are from birth to age 25. And during this time, the brain is incredibly plastic, meaning it is shaped by the environment. Think of the brain like a forest. There are millions of potential pathways. The pathways that get used the most become the highways. The pathways that don't get used become overgrown and disappear. In a safe, nurturing environment, the brain develops the pathways for calmness, trust, and connection. The child learns that when they cry, they are comforted. When they are scared, they are held. The safety pathways become the highways, but in an unsafe or neglectful environment, the brain develops different pathways. The child learns that the world is unpredictable, that their needs are not met, that they must be constantly vigilant. The danger pathways become the highways. This is how trauma becomes baked in. It is not a memory, it is a structure. It is a setup of the nervous system that is perpetually on guard. The HPA axis and the alarm system. The stress response system is called the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. It is your internal fire alarm. When you perceive a threat, the HPA axis is activated. Cortisol and adrenaline are released. Your heart rate increases and your muscles tense. You are ready to run, fight, or freeze. In a healthy system, once the threat passes, the fire alarm goes off. The stress hormones recede. Your body returns to a state of rest, digestion, and calm. But in a traumatized system, the fire alarm gets stuck in the on position. Why? Because for a child living in a chaotic or neglectful environment, the threat never really passes. There is always the possibility of the parent having a bad mood. There is always the possibility of being criticized. There is always the possibility of being ignored. The child is living in a state of chronic low-grade or high-grade hypervigilance. The stress hormones are constantly flowing. This has devastating consequences. The hippocampus, the part of the brain that distinguishes between past and present, shrinks. This means you have trouble telling the difference between a current threat and a past one. You are perpetually reacting to the past. The amygdala, the alarm bell, grows larger and becomes hypersensitive. It sees threats everywhere. It mistakes a critical look from a boss for a life-threatening attack. The prefrontal cortex, the thinking part, struggles to develop. You have less impulse control. You are more reactive. The survival self. In response to this high-alert environment, the developing psyche creates a survival self. The survival self is not the true you. It is a persona, a costume, a strategy. It is the version of you that you had to become to get through. If you grew up with a volatile parent, you became a hyper-vigilant people-pleaser. You learned to read the room to keep the peace. If you grew up with a depressed parent, you became invisible. You learned that your needs were a burden, so you stopped having them. If you grew up with a perfectionistic parent, you became a perfectionist yourself. You learned that love had to be earned through achievement. The survival self is a masterpiece of adaptation. It kept you alive. It got you through a childhood that you couldn't have survived as your authentic self. But the survival self has a tragic flaw. It doesn't know how to stop. It continues to operate long after the environment has changed. You are still people-pleasing, even when you are safe. You are still hypervigilant, even when there is no threat. You are still invisible, even when you are surrounded by people who want to see you. Neuroplasticity, the good news. Now that I have thoroughly terrified you with the neuroscience of trauma, I want to give you the hope. The brain is not fixed. It is not a statue. It is a river. This is called neuroplasticity. It is the brain's ability to reorganize itself, form new neural connections, and, crucially, prune away old, unhelpful pathways. The danger highways that were built in your childhood can be dismantled. The safety pathways that were neglected can be strengthened. It takes time, it takes repetition, but it is biologically possible. When we do the therapeutic work we are going to do in this book, the grounding exercises, the parts work, the grieving, we are literally rewiring the brain. We are calming the amygdala. We are strengthening the prefrontal cortex. We are building new highways of safety and trust. This is not wishful thinking. This is neuroscience. What this means for you. If you have struggled with the voice in your head, the snap reactions, the feeling of not enoughness, it is not because you are weak or broken. It is because your nervous system was shaped to perceive danger. It is because your brain developed in an environment that told you, constantly, that you were not safe. And now, as an adult, you are trying to navigate a world that is mostly safe, using a brain that was built for a world that wasn't. This is the root of the suffering, and this is exactly what we are going to address. We are not going to fight your brain. We are going to befriend it. We are going to understand its history, its strategies, and its fears. And we are going to teach it, slowly and gently, that the war is over. Chapter 4. The Exiles, the Managers, and the Firefighters. We have established that you are not alone in your head. The voice you hear, the critic, the tyrant, is not the only resident. It is simply the loudest. To make sense of the chaos inside, we are going to borrow a framework called Internal Family Systems, or IFS. I want to be upfront. This is not a spiritual or abstract concept. It is a highly practical, deeply compassionate model of the human psyche that has helped thousands of people unburden themselves from the weight of their past. The premise is simple. Your mind is not a single unified I. It is a family. Think of it like a house. There are the rooms you let people see, the clean living room, the tidy kitchen. There are the rooms you keep a little messier. And then there is the basement. The basement is where you keep all the stuff you don't want to deal with. It's dark, it's dusty. You have a lock on the door and you've lost the key. In this model, we have three primary types of residents in your internal house: the exiles, the managers, and the firefighters. Understanding these three parts is the most important thing you will do in this book, because once you understand them, the chaos of your reactions starts to look like a coherent strategy. It's not madness, it's a system. A painful, exhausting system, but a system nonetheless. The exiles, the wounded children. Let's start in the basement. The exiles are the most vulnerable parts of you. They are the parts that hold the deepest pain, the shame, the terror, the grief, the abandonment. They are often the youngest parts of us, the ages when the worst of the trauma occurred. Think about a child who is 4 years old. They are frightened of the dark. They crawl into their parents' bed, but they are pushed away. They are told to be a big kid. The fear is still there, but now there is a layer of shame attached to it. I am a burden. My needs are bad. That 4-year-old doesn't just disappear. They don't magically grow up. They get locked in the basement. They are still there, terrified, holding the original pain. But we lock them away because, at the time, it was too much to bear. If we felt that pain fully as a child, we would have been annihilated by it. So we created a system to keep it away. The exiles carry what I call the core wounds, the core wound of abandonment. No one is coming for me. The core wound of shame. I am bad, I am wrong. The core wound of worthlessness. I have no value. The core wound of defectiveness. There is something fundamentally broken in me. The exiles don't speak in words most of the time. They speak in sensations. A sudden, inexplicable wave of loneliness, a physical cringe when you hear a certain tone of voice, a crushing feeling of heaviness in your chest when you are criticized. Because they are locked away, they are frozen in time. They haven't learned that you are an adult now. They don't know you have resources, power, and safety. To them, you are still 4 years old, lying in the dark, waiting for someone who never came. And here is the tragic irony. The exiles want to be seen. They are dying for attention. They will do anything to get you to notice them. So they will create drama. They will create pain. They will manifest as chronic illness, depression, or anxiety, just to get you to look at them. A patient example. Clara. Clara came to me with severe anxiety around her career. She was a brilliant lawyer, but she was convinced she was about to be fired at any moment. She would lie awake at night, reviewing her emails, terrified she had made a mistake. During our work, we traced this fear back to a specific moment. She was 11 years old. Her father had lost his job. He had come home in a rage and screamed at her for leaving a toy on the stairs. He told her she was a clumsy, thoughtless idiot. Clara had buried that moment deep. But the 11-year-old exile was still there, paralyzed, believing that her very existence was an inconvenience. Every time she had to present a case to a senior partner, she wasn't facing a partner. She was facing her father. The exile was terrified, and the terror was leaking into her present-day life. The managers, the proactive protectors. If the exiles are locked in the basement, the managers are the ones who built the lock and stand guard in front of the door. The managers are proactive. They are the ones who try to control the environment to make sure the exiles are never triggered. They are the inner control freaks. They try to ensure that you never feel the shame, abandonment, or worthlessness of the exiles. Their philosophy is simple. If I can control everything, if I can make sure nothing bad happens, if I can make sure I am perfect, then the exile will never be activated. This is a full-time job. It is exhausting, and it is the source of a great deal of your daily suffering. The managers take many forms, and they all mean well. They are misguided protectors, doing a terrible job with good intentions. The perfectionist. This part drives you to do everything flawlessly. It thinks if you are perfect, you will be safe from criticism. The people pleaser. This part tries to make everyone else happy. It thinks if you are liked by everyone, you will be safe from rejection. The inner critic. This is the voice from chapter 1. It beats you up before anyone else can. It thinks if it tells you how worthless you are often enough, you'll stay in line and never take a risk that could lead to pain. The overachiever. This part makes you work 80 hours a week. It thinks if you are successful enough, no one can call you a failure. The caretaker. This part tries to fix everyone else's problems. It thinks if you are indispensable, you won't be abandoned. The managers are the false self. They are the mask you wear to the outside world. They are the reason people say, "You seem so put together," while you feel like you're falling apart. The manager's strategy. Let's look at Clara, the lawyer. Her manager was the hyper-vigilant examiner. It was the part of her that checked every comma, every legal precedent, because it was terrified of being scolded. The manager believed if I am above reproach, no one can attack me. If I am the best lawyer in the firm, I will be safe. But the manager couldn't stop the exile from leaking. Clara would still wake up panicking at 3 a.m., even if she hadn't made a mistake. The manager's frantic efforts to control her environment could not silence the inner screaming of the abandoned 11-year-old. The firefighters, the reactive protectors. Sometimes, despite the manager's best efforts, the exile gets out. Maybe you had a bad day at work. Your boss was dismissive. The manager tried to push you through it, but the exile got triggered. Suddenly, you aren't a 40-year-old adult. You are a terrified child who feels worthless and abandoned. When this happens, the manager often fails. The dam breaks, the basement floods, and that is when the firefighters show up. Firefighters are reactive. They are the emergency response team. They don't care about long-term consequences. They don't care about your relationship, your career, or your diet. They only care about one thing: numbing the pain of the exile right now, as quickly as possible. They are called firefighters because they don't mind setting the house on fire to put out a candle. They will do anything, to drown out the pain. Substance use, drinking, using drugs, overeating, starving yourself, dissociation, zoning out, scrolling on your phone for hours, watching TV until you pass out, losing hours of time, explosive anger, snapping at your partner, screaming at a stranger in traffic. The anger is a firefighter because it projects the pain outward, making someone else the bad guy so you don't have to feel like the bad guy inside. Compulsive behaviors. Binge watching, shopping, gambling, risky sexual behavior, excessive exercise. Self-harm, cutting, hitting yourself, pulling hair. This is an extreme firefighter that tries to replace emotional pain with physical pain, which is easier to control. When the firefighter takes over, you feel out of control. You watch yourself do these things and think, "Why did I do that? That's not me." And you are right. It's not the self doing it. It's a part of you that is so desperate to soothe the screaming child in the basement that it will blow up your entire life to get a moment of relief. The firefighter's strategy. When Clara, the lawyer, would have a difficult performance review, her exile, the terrified 11-year-old, would get activated. Her manager, the perfectionist, would collapse under the weight of the feedback. Then her firefighter would take over. She would go home and drink a bottle of wine. She would binge-watch Netflix until 2 a.m. and snap at her partner if he tried to talk to her. The next day, she would wake up with a hangover, deep shame, and a fresh layer of guilt. The firefighter had solved the pain for a few hours, but it had created a much bigger problem. A fractured relationship and a feeling of self-loathing that made the exile even stronger. The vicious cycle. Do you see how this works? The exile is the wound. The manager tries to prevent the wound from being touched. The firefighter tries to numb the wound when it is inevitably touched. The cycle leaves you exhausted, guilty, and feeling like a broken mess. But I want you to hear this clearly. None of these parts are bad. The exile is not bad. They are just hurt. The manager is not bad. They are just terrified. The firefighter is not bad. They are just desperate. They are all you, and they are all trying, in their own maladaptive way, to help you survive. How this shows up in your life. Let's make this personal. 1. The inner critic manager and the shame spiral exile. You make a small mistake at work. The inner critic manager jumps in immediately. Chapter 5. The body keeps the score. Close your eyes for a moment. I want you to do a quick scan. Start at the top of your head. Feel the crown of your skull. Now move down to your jaw. Is it clenched? Is there tension in the hinges of your jaw, the muscles that connect to your temples? Move down to your neck and your shoulders. Are they creeping up toward your ears? Do they feel like a suit of armor, hard and unyielding? Breathe into your chest. Is it tight? Does your breath feel shallow, like you can only take in a fraction of the air you need? Now, your stomach. Is there a knot, a churning, a hollow feeling? Your hands. Are they curled into fists? Clammy? Your legs. Are they tense? Ready to run? I want you to notice all of this. I don't want you to try to change it. I don't want you to relax your shoulders or unclench your jaw. Yet, I just want you to notice. This is the body you live in. For most people who carry complex trauma, this scan reveals a body that is perpetually braced for impact. It is a body that has forgotten what it feels like to be at rest. It is a body that is constantly, quietly screaming. And here is the thing that might surprise you. This tension is not just a symptom of your anxiety. It is the anxiety. It is the trauma. The body keeps the score. This phrase, popularized by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, captures one of the most profound truths about trauma. The past is not in the past. It lives in your cells. It lives in your muscles. It lives in your nervous system. You can't think your way out of a body that is terrified. You can't reason with a nervous system that is bracing for a blow. You have to show the body that it is safe. You have to prove it in the language it understands. Sensation. The somatic clue. Let's go back to Clara, the lawyer from the previous chapters. If you recall, Clara had a normal childhood on paper, but she carried a deep wound from feeling like a burden to her father. When I asked Clara to describe a difficult moment at work, she didn't just tell me about it intellectually. She told me with her body. Her hands started to tremble. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Her eyes darted around the room, scanning for an exit. I pointed this out to her. I said, Clara, your body is telling me something. It's telling me you are in danger. But you're just sitting in an office. There's no real danger here. So who is your body reacting to? She paused, and then with a start she realized her body was reacting to her father. In the courtroom, when a senior partner challenged her, she wasn't facing a colleague. She was facing the ghost of her father. Her body remembered the feeling of being small, of being silenced, of being a burden, and it reacted in the only way it knew how, with fear. This is the somatic clue. The body is always talking. It is always telling you the truth that your mind is trying to suppress. A sudden headache when you have to set a boundary. A knot in your stomach when you think about seeing a particular family member. A tightening in your chest when you are about to be vulnerable with a partner. A feeling of exhaustion after a social gathering, even if you had a good time. These are not random. They are messages. They are the exiles, speaking in the only language they have, the language of the body. The feedback loop. The relationship between the body and the mind is a two-way street. We tend to think that our emotions create our physical sensations. We feel sad, so we cry. We feel anxious, so our heart races. This is true, but the reverse is also true. If you stand in a power pose, chin up, chest out for 2 minutes, your cortisol levels drop and your testosterone levels rise. You feel more confident. If you force yourself to smile, your brain registers the muscle movement and sends out feel-good chemicals. The body is not a passive vessel for the mind. It is an active participant in creating your emotional reality. This is why we can't just think our way out of trauma. The body is sending a signal, and the mind is responding to that signal. If your muscles are clenched, your brain interprets that as, I am preparing for a fight. There must be danger. If your breath is shallow, your brain interprets that as, I am suffocating. I must be in a panic. The trauma gets locked in a feedback loop. The mind remembers the trauma, the body tenses in response, and the tension reinforces the memory of the trauma. Trauma as frozen energy. There is a concept in somatic, body-based therapy that I find incredibly useful. Trauma is frozen energy. When an animal in the wild encounters a life-threatening situation, its nervous system goes through a predictable cycle. It goes into fight or flight. If that fails, it goes into freeze. If it survives, it releases the energy through a physical discharge. The animal shakes, trembles, and then walks away, completely fine. Humans, however, have a prefrontal cortex. We have language. We have shame. When we encounter a threat, especially in childhood, we often can't fight or flee. We can't discharge the energy. We are told to calm down, to be quiet, to stop crying. So the energy gets trapped. It gets frozen in the body. The nervous system never gets to complete the cycle. It remains stuck in a state of high alert, waiting for the threat to pass. This frozen energy manifests as chronic muscle tension. Your muscles are perpetually contracted, like a fist that never opens. Somatic pain, headaches, back pain, neck pain, stomach issues. The body is storing the stress. Dissociation, feeling disconnected from your body, like you are watching yourself from outside. Numbness, an inability to feel pleasure, pain, or sensation. A feeling of being in a fog. Restlessness, an inability to sit still. Feeling like you have to keep moving. Fatigue, being exhausted all the time, even after a full night's sleep. This is the exhaustion of a perpetually activated nervous system. If you have any of these symptoms, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are simply carrying frozen energy that never had the chance to thaw. The patient example. Marcus. I worked with a patient named Marcus. Marcus was a successful architect. He had a beautiful wife, 2 children, and a thriving practice. On the outside, he was the picture of success. On the inside, he was in chronic, unrelenting pain. Marcus had suffered from debilitating lower back pain for over a decade. He had been to countless doctors, chiropractors, and physical therapists. Nothing worked. He had even undergone surgery. The pain persisted. When Marcus came to me, he was skeptical. He didn't believe that talking about feelings could help his back. But I asked him to try something. I asked him to lie down on my therapy couch and describe the pain to me. He closed his eyes. He said, "It's a heavy weight, right at the base of my spine, like I'm carrying a boulder on my lower back. I asked him, "Marcus, when did you first feel this weight?" He paused, and then his face crumpled. He was 14 years old. He was the oldest of 5 children. His father had died suddenly of a heart attack. Marcus was a freshman in high school. His mother had collapsed in grief and couldn't get out of bed for 6 months. Marcus had to take care of his siblings, manage the house, and maintain his grades. He had to be the man of the house. He told me, "I felt like the weight of the entire family was on my shoulders. But I couldn't complain. My mother was suffering. My siblings were suffering. I had to be strong." The weight on his shoulders. It wasn't a metaphor. It was a literal physical sensation that had been frozen in his body for over 30 years. We didn't just talk about this. We worked somatically. We allowed the 14-year-old Marcus to feel the weight, to express the grief he had never expressed, to cry the tears he had never cried. We did exercises where he physically pushed against my hands to release the muscular tension. It took time. It took months. But gradually, the pain in his back began to ease. Because he wasn't treating the symptom, he was treating the source. He was thawing the frozen energy. The window of tolerance. Now, I want to introduce a concept that will become the cornerstone of your healing. The window of tolerance. Imagine a window. Inside the window, you are comfortable. You feel calm, present, safe, and connected. You can think clearly. You can feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can relate to others in a healthy way. This is your optimal zone of functioning. But when you are triggered, you move outside the window. You go into one of 2 states. 1. Hyperarousal, fight or flight. You become anxious, agitated, irritable, or angry. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral. You snap at people, you can't sit still. You feel like you're going to explode. 2. Hypoarousal, freeze. You become numb, disconnected, or dissociated. You feel like you're watching yourself from outside your body. You feel heavy, lethargic, and hopeless. You can't move. You can't speak. You feel like you're not real. People who have experienced complex trauma have a very narrow window of tolerance. It takes very little to push them out of it. A minor criticism can send them into hyperarousal. A sudden loud noise can send them into hypoarousal. The goal of healing is to expand your window of tolerance, to teach your nervous system that you can handle more discomfort without going into survival mode, to help you stay present and connected even when things are hard. This is the work of the body. It is the work of showing your nervous system over and over that you are safe now. Befriending the body. If your body has been a source of pain, anxiety, or discomfort for as long as you can remember, it is natural that you have a complicated relationship with it. You may even hate it. You might see your body as a traitor. It betrays you with panic attacks. It embarrasses you with blushing. It tires you out when you need to be energetic. But I am going to ask you to do something radical. I am going to ask you to befriend your body. Your body is not the enemy. It is your most loyal ally. It has been sending you signals for your entire life. It has been trying to tell you that you are not safe, that you need to rest, that you need to grieve. But you have been ignoring it. The body is the language of the exile. The exile doesn't have words. It doesn't have a sophisticated vocabulary. It just knows how to feel, and it communicates through sensation. When you learn to listen to your body, you are learning to listen to the wounded parts of yourself. You are giving them the attention they have been craving. And when you do that, the frozen energy begins to thaw. A simple exercise, the body scan. I want to close this chapter with a simple, practical exercise that I want you to practice every day. It will take 5 minutes. This is a body scan. It is not about fixing anything. It is about listening. Step 1. Find a comfortable position. You can lie down, sit in a chair, or even stand. Close your eyes. Step 2. Take 3 deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Let your shoulders drop. Step 3, bring your attention to your feet. Just notice them. Are they warm or cold? Do they feel heavy? Do they feel restless? Don't judge, just notice. Step 4, move your attention up to your legs, your calves, your knees, your thighs. Notice any sensations. Tightness, heaviness, tingling. Step 5, move up to your pelvis and your lower back. This is where we often hold tension. Just notice. Step 6, move to your stomach. Is it tight, hollow, churning? Just breathe into it. Step 7, move to your chest. Is it heavy? Is your breath shallow? Just notice the rise and fall of your ribs. Step 8, move to your shoulders and neck. This is where most of us store our stress. Are they creeping up? Are they hard as stone? Just notice. Step 9, move to your jaw. Is it clenched? Are your teeth grinding? Just notice. Step 10, move to your face, your eyes, the space between your eyebrows, your forehead. Just notice. Step 11, take one final deep breath, and then gently open your eyes. That is all. You don't have to do anything with the information. You don't have to fix the tension. You just have to see it. Because the first step to healing is awareness. The body has been talking to you for years. Now, for the first time, you are listening. And when you listen, you begin to heal. Let's move forward. Now that we understand the body as the storage unit for trauma, we need to understand how the past invades the present. This is the most disorienting experience for trauma survivors, the moment when you are no longer an adult in a safe room, but a child in a dangerous one. Chapter 6, The Emotional Flashback. You are driving home from work. It was a perfectly ordinary day. Nothing bad happened, nothing dramatic. You are listening to the radio, thinking about what to make for dinner, when suddenly, out of nowhere, a wave of despair crashes over you. Your chest tightens, your throat closes up, your eyes sting with unshed tears. A voice in your head whispers, "I want to go home." But you are already home, or you are on your way there. You are safe, you are an adult. There is no immediate threat, but your body doesn't care about any of that. Your body thinks you are 7 years old and the world is ending. This is an emotional flashback. Unlike the flashbacks we see in movies, the vivid cinematic replays of a traumatic event, emotional flashbacks have no visual component. There is no movie playing behind your eyes. There is just a feeling that is too big, too old, and too overwhelming for the situation at hand. If you have ever found yourself sobbing uncontrollably over a minor inconvenience, or paralyzed with fear before a routine presentation, or filled with rage at a friend's innocent comment, you have likely experienced an emotional flashback, and you probably had no idea what was happening to you. The time warp. To understand the emotional flashback, we have to go back to the brain science we discussed in Chapter 3. Remember the hippocampus. It's the part of the brain that provides context. It tells you, this is the present. This is not the past. You are safe. In a traumatized brain, the hippocampus often shrinks. It becomes less effective at its job. So when a trigger occurs, a tone of voice, a facial expression, a smell, a sound, the amygdala, the alarm bell, goes off. But the hippocampus can't do its job. It can't say, that tone of voice is just your boss. You are not in trouble. You are not going to be hit. So the amygdala sends a signal to the body. Danger, danger, we are back in the past. And your body responds accordingly. It floods you with adrenaline. It tenses your muscles. It gets you ready to fight or flee. It does not care that you are a 40-year-old adult in a safe environment. It is operating on a program that was written decades ago. This is the time warp. The past becomes the present. You are no longer reacting to the person in front of you. You are reacting to the ghost of someone from your past. The trigger. Every emotional flashback begins with a trigger. A trigger is a stimulus that activates the trauma response. It can be anything. A tone of voice. A boss speaks to you in a dismissive tone, and suddenly you are 7 years old, being belittled by a parent. A facial expression. A partner rolls their eyes at a joke, and suddenly you are 11 years old, being mocked by a sibling. A smell. You walk past a bakery, and the smell of cinnamon triggers a memory of a happy moment with a grandparent. But the grief of that loss suddenly hits you like a wave. A date on the calendar, the anniversary of a loss, a birthday that was never celebrated, a holiday that was always filled with tension. A sensation. A tight hug triggers a feeling of being trapped, the way you felt when a relative held you too tight as a child. A word. Someone says lazy, and you are flooded with shame because that was your parents' favorite insult. The trigger can be so subtle that you don't even register it consciously. You just feel the emotion. One moment you are fine, the next moment you are drowning. The checklist. Am I in an emotional flashback? Because emotional flashbacks are so disorienting, it can be incredibly helpful to have a checklist. When you feel overwhelmed by an emotion that seems disproportionate to the situation, ask yourself, is my reaction stronger than the situation warrants? Do I feel like I am a child right now? Do I feel helpless, powerless, or trapped? Do I feel like I am in danger, even though I am objectively safe? Am I having trouble thinking clearly? Am I having physical symptoms? Racing heart, shallow breath, clenched jaw, churning stomach? Do I feel an overwhelming urge to fight, flee, or shut down? Am I feeling a core wound, worthless, unlovable, defective, or a burden? If you answered yes to several of these questions, you are likely in an emotional flashback. And here is the most important thing to remember. You are not crazy, you are not broken. You are just in a time warp. The logic problem. One of the most frustrating aspects of emotional flashbacks is that you can't reason your way out of them. Your rational mind knows that you are safe. Your rational mind knows that your reaction is disproportionate. Your rational mind can give you 100 reasons why you shouldn't be feeling this way. But the rational mind is not in charge right now. The prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, has gone offline. You are operating from the limbic system and the brainstem. You are in survival mode. Trying to talk yourself out of an emotional flashback is like trying to use a calculator to stop a car crash. It's the wrong tool for the job. The crash is already happening. You don't need logic. You need a different set of tools. The first tool. Orienting. In the next chapter, we will dive deep into grounding techniques. But I want to introduce one tool now because it is so simple, so powerful, and so immediately accessible. It is called orienting. Orienting is a technique borrowed from sensorimotor therapy. It is based on the way animals in the wild naturally regulate their nervous systems. When an animal experiences a threat and survives, it doesn't just walk away. It looks around. It takes in its environment. It checks to see if the threat is really gone. This is orienting. It tells the nervous system, the danger has passed, I am safe now. Here is how you do it. Step 1. When you feel the wave of emotion coming on, the panic, the rage, the despair, pause. Do not try to suppress it, just notice it. Say to yourself, I am having an emotional flashback. Step 2. Look around the room. Do not look inward at your feelings. Look outward. Let your eyes move slowly, deliberately, as if you are seeing the room for the first time. Step 3. Name 5 things you see. I see a lamp. I see a window. I see a blue chair. I see a plant. I see my hands. Step 4. Let your eyes rest on each object for a moment. Notice the color, the shape, the texture. Let your brain register the present moment. Step 5. Take one deep breath. Notice your feet on the floor. Notice the weight of your body in the chair. That is it. This simple act of orienting to the present moment signals to your nervous system that you are not in the past. You are here. You are safe. Personal anecdote: the grocery store. I want to share a personal story to show you how this works in real life. A few years ago, I was grocery shopping. It was a mundane task. I was standing in the aisle looking for a particular brand of pasta. And then, out of nowhere, I felt it. A wave of pure, undiluted terror. My heart started racing. My palms were sweating. I felt like I was going to be sick. I looked around the store, scanning for danger. I was convinced that something terrible was about to happen. But nothing was happening. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The grocery store was quiet. There was no threat. I was in an emotional flashback. I had no idea what triggered it, but I knew I had to do something. So I put down the pasta. I leaned against the shopping cart, and I started to orient. I looked at the shelves. I named the items: ravioli, marinara sauce, olive oil, rice, canned tomatoes. I looked at the fluorescent lights. I looked at the floor tiles. I looked at the other shoppers. Slowly, the panic began to subside. My breathing slowed. My heart rate returned to normal. I was still in the grocery store. I was still safe. The flashback had passed. Later, I realized what had triggered it. I was standing in the pasta aisle, and the overhead speaker was playing a song. It was a song that had been playing in the background on a night years ago when I had received devastating news. I hadn't consciously registered the song, but my body had, and it had sent me back to that moment. That is how insidious emotional flashbacks can be. You can be triggered by something you don't even notice, but once you know the tools, you can navigate them. The second tool, the container. Orienting is for the moment of the flashback, but what happens after? What do you do with all the feelings that the flashback has stirred up? This is where the concept of the container comes in. When you are in the middle of a flashback, you are overwhelmed. You are drowning. You cannot process the emotions. You can only survive them. So the first step is to survive. But once you have oriented and calmed down, you may still feel the residue of the flashback. The sadness, the anger, the shame. They are still there just below the surface. This is when you need a container. A container is a metaphorical box where you can put your overwhelming feelings until you have the resources to deal with them. It is not about suppression. It is about containment. It is saying to your emotional system, I see you, I feel you, but I am not in a place to process you right now. I will come back to you when I am safe and supported. Here is how you create a container. Step 1. Close your eyes and imagine a box. It can be any size, any shape, any material. Maybe it's a wooden chest. Maybe it's a steel safe. Maybe it's a cardboard box. Choose whatever feels right. Step 2. Now, imagine that you can take the overwhelming feeling, the panic, the rage, the grief, and put it into the box. You can feel it leaving your body and entering the container. Lock the box, close the lid. Step 3. Tell yourself, I am putting these feelings away for now. They are safe. I will come back to them when I am ready. Step 4. Open your eyes. Return to the present moment. This is not about ignoring your feelings. It is about managing them so they don't overwhelm you. You will come back to them in therapy, in journaling, or in a safe relationship. But for now, you can set them aside. The third tool, the re-scripting. This is the most advanced tool, and we will explore it in more depth in Chapter 13. but I want to introduce it now. When you are in an emotional flashback, you are replaying a scene from your past, but the scene is distorted. You are playing the role of the helpless child, and you are stuck in that role. The re-scripting exercise asks you to imagine the scene differently. It asks you to step into the scene as the adult you are now and rescue the child you were then. For example, if you are having a flashback to a moment when you were criticized by a parent, imagine your adult self walking into the room. Imagine your adult self standing between the child and the parent. Imagine your adult self saying, "Stop. You are not allowed to speak to this child that way. This child is precious. This child is valuable." This is a powerful exercise. It rewires the brain. It shows the exile that they are not alone, that there is now an adult who can protect them. We will do more of this later. For now, just know that it exists. Just know that you have the power to change the narrative. The path forward emotional flashbacks are one of the most painful aspects of complex trauma. They can make you feel like you are losing your mind. They can make you feel like the pain will never end. But I want you to know, it will end. The flashbacks will become less frequent. The intensity will diminish. You will learn to recognize them, to name them, and to navigate them with skill and compassion. Every time you survive a flashback, you are proving to your nervous system that you can handle it. You are expanding your window of tolerance. You are showing the exiles that you are an adult who can protect them. This is the work of healing, and you are doing it. Let's move into the relational realm. Now that we understand the internal landscape, the parts, the body, the flashbacks, we have to look at how all of this shows up in your relationships with others. This is where the rubber really meets the road, because trauma is not just an internal experience. It is a relational one. It was formed in relationship, and it must be healed in relationship. Chapter 7. The Defensive Life. You are at a party. You don't want to be there. You came because you felt obligated, because you didn't want to disappoint the host, because you told yourself you need to get out more. You are standing in the corner holding a glass of wine you don't really want to drink. You are scanning the room. Everyone seems to be having a good time. They are laughing. They are talking in small groups. They look comfortable in their own skin. You feel like an imposter. You try to join a conversation. You say something. You're not even sure what. And the person you're talking to gives you a polite smile and turns away. You feel your face flush. The voice in your head starts up. "See, you're awkward. You have nothing interesting to say. Why do you even try?" You retreat to the corner. You pull out your phone. You scroll mindlessly. You wait for the minimum acceptable time to pass so you can leave without being rude. On the drive home, you are flooded with shame. You tell yourself you should have tried harder. You should have been more interesting. You should have smiled more. You are a failure at human connection. But here is the truth. You weren't a failure. You were defending yourself. You were protecting a wounded part of you that was terrified of being rejected. You preempted the rejection by rejecting yourself first. You withdrew before anyone else could push you away. This is the defensive life. The shields we carry. We all have shields. We developed them in childhood to protect ourselves from the pain of rejection, criticism, and abandonment. The problem is that we continue to use these shields long after they are necessary. We use them in relationships that are safe, with people who love us because our nervous systems haven't caught up to reality. There are three primary defensive patterns that show up in complex trauma. 1. The avoidance shield. 2. The anxious shield. 3. The chaotic shield. Let's look at each one. The avoidance shield. The avoidance shield is the defense of distance. If you have this pattern, you have learned that it is safer to be alone. You have learned that people are unpredictable, that they will eventually hurt you, and that the only way to stay safe is to keep them at arm's length. The avoidance shield manifests in many ways. Emotional withdrawal. You don't share your feelings. You keep your inner world private. When someone asks, "What's wrong?" you say, "Nothing, I'm fine." You are terrified of being a burden, so you carry everything alone. Physical distance. You create physical space. You work late. You find excuses to be alone. You prefer the company of a book or a screen to the company of another human being. Reluctance to commit. You keep relationships casual. You don't make plans too far in advance. You keep one foot out the door, ready to leave before you can be left. Independence as a mask. You pride yourself on not needing anyone. You see vulnerability as weakness. You say things like, "I'm just a loner," or "I'm better off on my own." Ghosting and shutting down. When a relationship gets too intense, you disappear. You stop answering texts. You become cold and distant. You don't explain yourself. You just leave. The wound behind the shield. If you carry the avoidance shield, you likely learned in childhood that your needs were a burden. You learned that expressing emotion led to rejection or punishment. You learned that the only way to be safe was to be invisible. Your exile feels deeply abandoned. But the manager, the avoidant part, has created a strategy. If I don't need anyone, no one can disappoint me. If I don't get attached, I can't get hurt. The tragedy is that this strategy works too well. You avoid the pain of rejection, but you also avoid the joy of connection. You are safe, but you are profoundly lonely. Patient example. Daniel came to therapy because his wife had given him an ultimatum. Get help or get divorced. Daniel was a successful engineer, a kind man, and a loving father. But he was emotionally absent. He would come home from work, eat dinner in silence, and retreat to his study. He never shared his feelings. He never asked his wife about her day. When she tried to talk to him about their relationship, he would shut down. He would say, "I don't know what you want from me. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do." In therapy, we traced this pattern back to his childhood. Daniel had grown up with a chronically depressed mother. When he was 8 years old, he had tried to comfort her after she had been crying. She had snapped at him, "Just leave me alone. You're making it worse." Daniel learned that his presence was intrusive. He learned that his attempts to connect were unwelcome. He learned that the best way to love someone was to stay out of their way. The 8-year-old exile was still there, believing that he was a bother, that his emotions were too much, that the safest thing to do was to disappear. Daniel's avoidant shield had protected him from the pain of rejection, but it had also robbed his wife and children of the experience of knowing him. The anxious shield. The anxious shield is the defense of overconnection. If you have this pattern, you have learned that love is conditional, that you have to earn it, that you have to be perfect to keep it, and that any mistake will lead to abandonment. The anxious shield manifests in many ways. People-pleasing. You say yes when you want to say no. You put everyone else's needs above your own. You are terrified of disappointing anyone. Perfectionism. You hold yourself to impossible standards. You believe that if you are perfect, no one can criticize you. You are terrified of making mistakes. Hypervigilance. You are constantly scanning the environment for signs of danger. You read people's micro-expressions. You are always on the lookout for the moment when they will reject you. Oversharing. You tell too much too soon. You try to force intimacy because you are desperate for connection. You hope that if you reveal your vulnerabilities, the other person will reciprocate and love you. Clinging. You text too often. You need constant reassurance. You panic when someone doesn't respond quickly. You feel like you are going to die if they leave. Fawning. You appease and flatter. You try to be exactly what the other person wants. You lose yourself in the process of trying to be loved, the wound behind the shield. If you carry the anxious shield, you likely learned in childhood that love was transactional. You had to perform to be loved. You had to be the good child, the successful child, the happy child. Your parents' love was a prize to be won, not a gift to be given. Your exile feels deeply worthless, but the manager, the anxious part, has created a strategy. If I make myself indispensable, no one will leave me. If I am perfect, they will have to love me. The tragedy is that this strategy also works too well. You get the connection you crave, but it is hollow. You are being loved for your performance, not for who you are. You are exhausted from the constant effort, and you live in terror that your mask will slip and the person will see the real you and leave. Patient example, Sarah. Sarah was a woman in her 30s who couldn't stay in a relationship for more than 6 months. She would meet a man, fall madly in love, and then the anxiety would begin. She would text him constantly. She would analyze every word of his messages. She would cancel plans with friends to be available for him. She would change her opinions to match his, and then, inevitably, she would burn out. She would become resentful. She would feel like she had lost herself. And she would break up with him. In therapy, we trace this pattern back to her childhood. Sarah's mother had been a social climber. She had pushed Sarah to be the perfect daughter, the best grades, the best extracurriculars, the best behavior. Sarah had learned that love was a competition. She had learned that she had to earn her mother's approval. The little girl exile was still desperate for approval. She believed that if she was perfect enough, someone would finally choose her. But the cost of that belief was the loss of her authentic self. The chaotic shield. The chaotic shield is the defensive push-pull. It is a combination of avoidance and anxiety. If you have this pattern, you oscillate between clinging and withdrawing. You are terrified of abandonment, but you are also terrified of engulfment. The chaotic shield manifests in many ways, hot and cold. You are intensely loving one day and coldly distant the next. You confuse your partners with your inconsistency. Drama creation. You pick fights, you create conflict. You test the other person to see if they will leave. Sabotage. When a relationship is going well, you do something to destroy it. You cheat. You pick an unforgivable fight. You push the person away. Intensity seeking. You are drawn to intense, volatile relationships. Peaceful relationships feel boring or unsafe. Fear of both intimacy and abandonment. You are terrified of being alone, but you are also terrified of being known. You want connection, but you don't know how to trust it. The wound behind the shield. If you carry the chaotic shield, you likely grew up in an environment that was unpredictable. Maybe your parents' mood was a lottery, sometimes loving, sometimes cruel. Maybe you experienced both neglect and enmeshment. Maybe you were abandoned and then reclaimed, over and over again. Your exile is deeply confused about what love even is. Love feels dangerous and safe at the same time. The manager doesn't know how to navigate this, so it oscillates wildly between strategies. The push-pull, one of the most painful aspects of the defensive life, is the push-pull dynamic. This is when two wounded people find each other and recreate their childhood wounds in their adult relationships. An avoidant person and an anxious person often end up together. The anxious person clings and the avoidant person pushes away. The anxious person feels abandoned and clings harder. The avoidant person feels suffocated and pushes harder. It is a tragic dance. Both are trying to get their needs met, but their strategies are triggering each other's deepest wounds. I can't tell you how many couples I have seen in my practice who are caught in this dance. They love each other. They desperately want to make it work. But they are trapped in a pattern that was written long before they ever met. If this sounds like you, I want you to know that there is hope. But the hope lies not in changing your partner. It lies in healing the wounds inside of you. When you stop acting from your wound, you stop triggering your partner's wound. The dance ends. The cost of the defensive life. The defensive life is exhausting. You are constantly performing. You are constantly scanning for danger. You are constantly suppressing your true feelings. You are constantly afraid of being seen. The shields that protected you in childhood are now the prison walls of your adulthood. They keep you safe, yes, but they also keep you isolated. They keep you from the very connection you crave. The tragedy of the defensive life is that you end up creating the very thing you fear. You fear abandonment, so you cling, and your clinging drives the person away. You fear engulfment, so you withdraw, and your withdrawal makes the person cling. The wound becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The path forward. There is a way out of the defensive life. It is not easy, but it is possible. Step 1. Awareness. You have to recognize your shield. You have to see it in action. When you feel yourself withdrawing or clinging, you have to say to yourself, "Ah, there is my shield. There is my wounded part trying to protect me." Step 2. Compassion. You have to have compassion for the part that is using the shield. It is not a bad part. It is a terrified part. It learned this strategy because it had to. It was trying to help you survive. Step 3. Choice. You have to start making different choices. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But slowly, gently, you have to choose differently. You have to choose to stay in the conversation instead of shutting down. You have to choose to say no instead of people-pleasing. You have to choose to be seen. Step 4. Safety. You have to find safe people to practice with, people who are consistent, kind, and patient, people who won't punish you for your mistakes, people who will stay. The defensive life kept you alive, but it is no longer serving you. You are an adult now. You have power you didn't have as a child. You have choices you didn't have then. You can put down the shield, not all at once, not without fear, but you can put it down piece by piece and discover what it feels like to be seen. Let's go deeper into the engine of suffering. The inner critic is perhaps the most relentless and exhausting part of the wounded psyche. It is the voice that wakes you up at 3 a.m., that sabotages your successes, that convinces you that you are fundamentally flawed. But as we will discover, this voice is not your enemy. It is a protector that has taken on a toxic job. Chapter 8. The Tyranny of the Inner Critic. You have just done something good, something successful. You finished a project at work. You had a lovely conversation with a friend. You made a delicious meal. You feel a flicker of pride. And then, before you can even enjoy it, the voice speaks. Don't get too comfortable. You got lucky. It wasn't that good. You could have done better. Someone else would have done it faster. Someone else would have done it smarter. You're going to screw it up eventually. Everyone is going to find out you're a fraud. The flicker of pride is extinguished. The joy is gone. You are back in the familiar territory of shame, doubt, and anxiety. This is the inner critic. And if you have been struggling with complex trauma, you know this voice intimately. It is the most consistent presence in your life. It is more reliable than any friend, more persistent than any enemy. It is a tyrant. The critic's resume. Let's take a moment to look at the inner critic's job description. What does it actually do? It attacks your character. You're lazy, you're selfish, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're weak. It attacks your performance. That wasn't good enough. You should have tried harder. You should have done it differently. You failed. It attacks your worth. You don't deserve this. You're a fraud. Everyone is going to find out. You're not as good as they think you are. It predicts disaster. You're going to fail. You're going to be rejected. You're going to be alone. It's only a matter of time. It compares you to others. Look at them. They're so successful. They're so happy. They're so put together. Why can't you be more like them? It catastrophizes. You made a mistake. Now everything is ruined. Your career is over. Your relationship is over. You have destroyed everything. It minimizes your achievements. That doesn't count. Anyone could have done that. It was just luck. It wasn't really you. It shames you for feeling. Why are you so upset? You're being dramatic. Stop being so sensitive. Other people have real problems. If you are reading this list and feeling a familiar knot in your stomach, you are not alone. The inner critic is a universal experience for trauma survivors. It is the voice of the wound. It is the echo of the past. The secret origin. Here is the truth that will change everything. The inner critic is not you. It is a part of you, yes. But it is not your authentic self. It is a manager, a protector that took on a job in childhood and never quit. Imagine a young child. She is 6 years old. She is playing in the living room. She makes a mess. Her father comes home, sees the mess, and screams at her. He tells her she is a disaster, that she ruins everything. The child is terrified. She is flooded with shame. She doesn't know how to handle this. She feels like she is going to die from the intensity of the shame. So, to survive, she creates a protector. She creates a voice that will beat her up before anyone else can. She tells herself, I am a disaster. I ruin everything. When her father comes home, the voice is already active. She has already criticized herself. The father's criticism doesn't feel as devastating because she has already prepared herself for it. The critic is a preemptive strike. It is a way of inoculating yourself against the pain of external criticism. If you tell yourself you're worthless first, no one can hurt you with that truth. The critic is also a control strategy. It keeps you small. It keeps you from taking risks. If you never try, you can never fail. If you never fail, you can never be rejected. The critic thinks it is keeping you safe. But here is the tragedy. The critic doesn't know that you are no longer 6 years old. It doesn't know that your father is no longer in the room. It doesn't know that you are an adult with power, resources, and choices. The critic is a relic. It is a ghost from the past, and it is doing a job it was never meant to do. Whose voice is it, really? If the inner critic is not you, then whose voice is it? Often the critic is the internalized voice of a parent, a caregiver, a teacher, or a bully. It is the voice of the people who criticized you, shamed you, or failed to see you. I want you to do something. The next time you hear the inner critic, pause. Listen to its tone. Listen to the words it uses. Does it sound like your mother, your father, your grandmother, a teacher from elementary school, a sibling who tormented you? For many survivors, the critic's voice is a direct transcript of their childhood environment. It is the voice of the person who told them they weren't good enough. Take Clara, the lawyer from earlier chapters. Her inner critic's voice was the voice of her mother. It would say things like, "You're being dramatic. Stop making a scene. You're so emotional." When Clara realized this, she was furious. She said, "I've been letting my mother live inside my head, criticizing me for 40 years. She doesn't even know she's doing it." And she was right. The critic was not her voice. It was her mother's voice, internalized and automated. For others, the critic is not a specific person. It is a composite. It is the feeling of being judged, the atmosphere of constant evaluation, the sense that you are never quite good enough. But whatever its origin, the critic is a foreign invader. It is a voice that was installed in your psyche by the environment you grew up in. It is not your truth. The shame spiral. The inner critic is the engine of the shame spiral. This is the process by which a small mistake or trigger escalates into a full-blown crisis of self-worth. Here is how it works. Step 1. The trigger. You make a mistake. Maybe you say something awkward. Maybe you forget an appointment. Maybe you burn the dinner. Step 2. The initial criticism. The critic jumps in. You idiot, you always do this, you're so careless. Step 3. The magnification. The critic doesn't stop at the mistake. It generalizes. You're not just careless, you're a failure. You fail at everything. Step 4. The identity shift. The mistake is no longer an isolated event. It is proof of your fundamental defectiveness. This is why no one loves you. This is why you'll never succeed. You are fundamentally broken. Step 5. The despair. You are no longer just feeling bad about a mistake. You are feeling bad about being. You are flooded with shame. You want to disappear. You want to die. This spiral can happen in minutes. And it is devastating. The shame spiral is the critic's most powerful weapon. It is how it keeps you small. It is how it prevents you from taking risks. Because if one mistake can destroy your entire sense of worth, you will be terrified to do anything that might lead to a mistake. The critic's secret agenda. Here is the twist. The inner critic is not trying to destroy you. I know it feels that way. It feels like a bully, a tyrant, a sadist. But if you look beneath the surface, you will find something entirely different. The critic is trying to help you. It is trying to keep you safe. It is trying to prevent you from experiencing the pain of rejection, failure, and abandonment. The critic's logic goes like this. If I tell you you're worthless, you won't try to achieve something big and risk failing. If I tell you you're ugly, you won't try to find love and risk being rejected. If I tell you you're a fraud, you won't step into the spotlight and risk being exposed. If I tell you you're too much, you won't ask for what you need and risk being turned away. The critic is trying to protect you from the pain it believes is inevitable. It is trying to keep you safe, small, and invisible. But the critic's strategy is deeply flawed. It protects you from pain, but it also protects you from joy. It keeps you from failure, but it also keeps you from success. It prevents rejection, but it also prevents connection. The critic is a firefighter drowning the entire house to put out a candle. The cost of the critic. The inner critic takes a tremendous toll on your life. It affects everything. Your mental health. Constant self-criticism leads to depression, anxiety, and chronic stress. You are perpetually on guard against your own thoughts. Your relationships. You push people away because you don't believe you deserve them. You sabotage intimacy because you are afraid of being seen. Your career. You play small. You don't go for the promotion. You don't share your ideas. You are terrified of being exposed as a fraud. Your creativity. You don't create. You don't write, paint, sing, or dance. The critic tells you you're not good enough, so you don't even try. Your joy. You can't enjoy your successes. The critic always has a but. That was great, but... Your health. Chronic self-criticism activates the stress response. It leads to inflammation, cardiovascular disease, and a weakened immune system. The critic is stealing your life. It is keeping you from the fullness of who you are meant to be. Befriending the critic. So what do we do with the inner critic? We do not try to kill it. We do not try to silence it. That would be like trying to silence a terrified child by screaming at them. It doesn't work. It just makes the child scream louder. Instead, we befriend it. We recognize that the critic is a part of us that is trying to help. It is misguided. It is using outdated strategies. But its intentions are good. Here is how we start. Step 1. Notice. When the critic speaks, notice it. Say to yourself, ah, there is the critic. There is that familiar voice. Don't try to argue with it. Just notice it. Step 2. Name. Name the part. This is my inner critic. This is the part of me that is trying to keep me safe by being harsh. Step 3. Differentiate. Remind yourself that the critic is not you. I am not this voice. It is just a part of me. I have other parts. I have a self that is capable of compassion. Step 4. Inquire. Ask the critic a question. Don't argue, just ask. What are you trying to protect me from? What are you afraid will happen if you stop criticizing me? You might be surprised by the answer. The critic might tell you, I'm afraid you'll fail and everyone will leave you. Or, I'm afraid you'll get your hopes up and be disappointed. Step 5. Thank. Thank the critic for its efforts. Thank you for trying to protect me. I know you mean well, but I am an adult now. I can handle things. I don't need you to be this harsh anymore. This is called befriending the inner critic. It is a radical act of self-compassion, and it is the beginning of the critic's transformation. Over time, as you befriend the critic, it will soften. It will relax. It may even become an ally. Instead of attacking you, it will become a voice of discernment. Instead of shaming you, it will offer gentle guidance. This transformation takes time. The critic has been in charge for decades. It won't give up its job overnight. But with consistent, compassionate attention, it will begin to trust that you are safe now. The new role of the critic. As the inner critic transforms, it can take on a new role. It can become the inner advisor. This is the part of you that offers constructive feedback without judgment, helps you make good decisions without fear, notices mistakes without catastrophizing, encourages growth without demanding perfection, protects you from real danger without manufacturing false threats. The inner advisor is not the enemy. It is a wise, compassionate guide. It wants you to succeed, but it doesn't punish you when you fail. It wants you to be safe, but it doesn't keep you trapped. When you befriend the critic, you reclaim a powerful ally. You transform a tyrant into a mentor. A personal story. I had a profound experience with my own inner critic a few years ago. I was preparing for a major public speaking event. I was terrified. The critic was relentless. You're going to bomb. You're going to freeze. Everyone is going to see that you're a fraud. You shouldn't be up there. Who do you think you are? I was paralyzed. I wanted to cancel. I wanted to hide. But instead of fighting the critic, I did something different. I sat down, closed my eyes, and had a conversation with it. I said, "Critic, I hear you. I know you're terrified. What are you afraid of?" The critic responded, "I'm afraid you'll make a fool of yourself. I'm afraid everyone will laugh at you. I'm afraid you'll be humiliated and never recover." I said, "Thank you for protecting me. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I need you to know I am an adult. I have prepared for this. I know my material. Even if I stumble, I will survive. I will not die. I will be okay." The critic was quiet for a moment. Then it said, "Okay, I trust you, but I'm going to be right here if you need me." The critic didn't disappear, but it softened. It stopped screaming. It became a quiet presence in the background, ready to help if I needed it. I did the talk. It went well. I made a few mistakes, but I didn't die, and the critic was there, watching but not attacking. That was a turning point for me. It was the moment I realized that the critic is not my enemy. It is a frightened part of me that just needs to be seen, heard, and reassured. The path forward. The inner critic is one of the most resilient parts of the wounded psyche. It has been with you for a long time. It is deeply entrenched. It will not transform overnight, But every time you notice it, name it, and respond to it with compassion, you are rewiring your brain. You are building new neural pathways. You are weakening the critic's grip on your psyche. This is the work of healing, and you are doing it. Let's move into the heart of the reactive storm. This is where the internal experience becomes external, where the wounded parts take the wheel and drive your life off a cliff. These are the moments you regret, the moments you watch yourself acting like a stranger, the moments that fill you with shame afterward. Chapter 9. Dysregulation. When emotion takes the wheel. You are driving home from work. Traffic is heavy, you are tired, you are hungry. You just want to get home, eat dinner, and collapse on the couch. A car cuts you off. It's not even that close. It's a minor annoyance. But suddenly you are flooded with rage. Your hands grip the steering wheel. Your jaw clenches. You honk your horn. You scream obscenities at the other driver. Your heart is pounding. You are shaking with fury. You have become a different person. And then, as quickly as it came, the rage passes. You are left feeling drained, ashamed, and confused. You think, why did I react like that? It wasn't a big deal. What is wrong with me? This is dysregulation. It is the moment when emotion takes the wheel and your rational mind becomes a helpless passenger. The takeover dysregulation happens when you are pushed outside your window of tolerance. Your nervous system becomes overwhelmed, and your thinking brain goes offline. You are no longer operating from your prefrontal cortex, the human brain. You are operating from your limbic system and brainstem, the survival brain. When this happens, you experience one of three responses. 1. Hyperarousal, fight or flight. You become agitated, angry, anxious, or frantic. You snap at people. You can't sit still. You feel like you are going to explode. 2. Hypoarousal, freeze. You become numb, disconnected, or dissociated. You shut down. You can't speak. You feel like you are watching yourself from outside your body. 3. The shutdown, faint. You feel overwhelmed and collapse. You feel helpless, hopeless, and exhausted. You want to disappear. These are not choices. They are automatic responses. They are the nervous system's way of protecting you from what it perceives as a life-threatening danger. The problem is that the danger is often not life-threatening. It's a critical comment from a boss. It's a partner's tone of voice. It's a minor inconvenience. But your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It reacts to the past, not the present. The warning signs. Dysregulation doesn't happen out of nowhere. There are warning signs. Your body is trying to tell you that you are approaching the edge of your window of tolerance. If you can learn to recognize these warning signs, you can intervene before you go over the edge. You can pull back from the cliff. Physical warning signs: racing heart, shallow breathing, clenched jaw or fists, sweating nausea or stomach churning, headache or tension in the neck and shoulders. A feeling of heat or flushing, trembling or shaking, a feeling of being keyed up or on edge. Emotional warning signs: irritability or impatience, overwhelming anxiety or fear, sudden anger or rage, feeling like you're going to cry, a sense of dread or doom, feeling numb or disconnected, feeling like you want to run away or hide. Cognitive warning signs: racing thoughts, inability to concentrate, catastrophic thinking, a feeling of being out of control, difficulty making decisions, a sense of unreality. If you can catch yourself at the warning sign stage, you have a chance to self-regulate. You can take a breath. You can step away. You can use the tools we will learn in Part 4. But if you miss the warning signs, the takeover happens, and then you are in the storm. The snap. The snap is the moment when the dam breaks. It is when the suppressed emotion, the accumulated stress, the unhealed wound, it all comes rushing out. The snap can take many forms. Verbal explosion. You yell. You say things you don't mean. You attack the person in front of you. You are cruel. Physical explosion. You throw something. You slam a door. You hit a wall. You hurt yourself. Emotional collapse. You burst into tears. You sob uncontrollably. You can't stop crying. Shut down. You go silent. You stare blankly. You leave the room. You emotionally abandon the person in front of you. Dissociative episode. You feel like you are floating above your body. You feel like you are dreaming. You lose time. Addictive behavior. You reach for alcohol, food, drugs, or a screen. You numb the feeling immediately. The snap is the moment of the firefighter. This is the part that doesn't care about long-term consequences. It only cares about ending the pain right now. And it will do anything to end that pain. The aftermath, the shame cycle. The snap is bad enough, but the aftermath is often worse. After the dysregulation passes, you are left with a crushing wave of shame. You replay the moment over and over in your head. You think, why did I do that? I'm such a terrible person. I've ruined everything. They're going to leave me now. What is wrong with me? This is the shame cycle. It is the critic taking over and punishing you for your dysregulation. The shame cycle is devastating because it compounds the original wound. You feel bad for feeling bad. You shame yourself for your shame. And here is the cruel irony. The shame cycle makes you more dysregulated. The next time you are triggered, you have even less capacity to manage it. You are carrying the weight of the previous dysregulation. The cycle continues. This is how trauma survivors get trapped. The shame of the dysregulation keeps them dysregulated. Patient example, Elena. Elena was a successful marketing executive. She was brilliant, driven, and well-liked. But she had a secret. She would occasionally lose it. She would snap at her team for minor mistakes. She would be cold and dismissive to her husband for no reason. She would scream at her children for making a mess. After these episodes, Elena would be consumed with guilt. She would apologize profusely. She would buy gifts for the people she had hurt. She would make promises to change. But the next trigger would come and the cycle would repeat. When Elena came to therapy, she was convinced she was a bad person. She said, "I'm a monster. I can't control myself. I don't deserve to be loved." We traced her dysregulation back to her childhood. Elena had grown up in a chaotic home. Her father was an alcoholic. She never knew what mood he would be in. Some nights he was loving, other nights he was raging. Elena had learned to walk on eggshells. She had never felt safe. Her nervous system was always on high alert. When a trigger occurred, a team member making a mistake, her husband leaving his socks on the floor, her nervous system interpreted it as a threat. It reacted as if her life was in danger. Elena wasn't a monster. She was a person whose nervous system had been wired for survival in a dangerous environment. And she was carrying that survival response into her adult life. The hypervigilance problem. Elena's experience illustrates a key feature of complex trauma: hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is a state of being constantly on alert. You are scanning the environment for threats. You are reading people's micro-expressions. You are anticipating the worst. You are always preparing for the blow. Hypervigilance is exhausting. It takes a tremendous amount of energy. It is like having a security guard in your brain who never sleeps, never takes a break, and sees threats everywhere. People with hypervigilance often experience difficulty relaxing, difficulty sleeping, startle response, jumping at sudden noises, overwhelm in crowded places, inability to sit still, constantly anticipating the worst, feeling like something bad is about to happen. Physical tension and pain. Hypervigilance is a symptom of a nervous system that is stuck in the on position. It is the firefighter's constant vigilance. It is the manager's attempt to control the environment. And it is a major contributor to dysregulation. When you are already on high alert, it takes very little to push you over the edge. You have no reserves. You have no bandwidth. You are running on empty. The guilt cycle. After the snap, after the shame cycle, there is often a period of intense guilt. This is different from shame. Shame is about who you are. I am bad. Guilt is about what you did. I did a bad thing. Guilt can be useful. It can motivate you to make amends. It can help you learn from your mistakes. But for trauma survivors, guilt often becomes another weapon of the critic. You don't just feel guilty. You become guilty. You wear your guilt like a hair shirt. You punish yourself for your mistakes. This self-punishment is another form of dysregulation. It keeps you stuck in the past. It prevents you from moving forward. The key is to learn the difference between healthy guilt and toxic shame. Healthy guilt says, I made a mistake, I will apologize, I will do better next time. Toxic shame says, I am a mistake, I am irredeemable, there is no hope for me. The path back to regulation. When you are in the middle of a dysregulated state, you cannot think your way out of it. The thinking brain is offline. You need a different approach. Step 1. Pause. Stop what you are doing. If you are in a conversation, excuse yourself. If you are in a meeting, go to the bathroom. If you are driving, pull over. You need to interrupt the pattern. Step 2. Breathe. Take a slow, deep breath. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. The longer exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. Step 3. Ground. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Touch something solid. Look around the room and name 5 things you see. Step 4. Orient. Remind yourself where you are. I am in my office. I am in my car. I am in my kitchen. I am safe. I am an adult. I have resources. I can handle this. Step 5. Self-soothe. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the warmth of your hand. Say to yourself, I am okay. I am safe. This feeling will pass. I have survived worse. These steps are not a cure. They will not stop the dysregulation from happening again, but they can help you come back to yourself when you are in the middle of it. Over time, as you practice these steps, you will strengthen your capacity for self-regulation. Your window of tolerance will expand. You will be able to handle more stress without losing control. The role of the therapist. Self-regulation is important, but it is not enough. You also need co-regulation. Co-regulation is the process of calming your nervous system through connection with another person. This is why therapy is so powerful. A safe, attuned therapist can help you regulate your nervous system. When you are dysregulated, your therapist who can witness your pain without being overwhelmed by it, validate your experience without minimizing it, model calmness and presence, slow things down so you don't get swept away by the emotion, help you find your way back to the present moment. If you don't have a therapist, you can find co-regulation in safe relationships. A friend, a partner, a family member who can sit with you, hold space for you, and help you feel safe. Co-regulation is a human need. We are wired for connection. We cannot heal in isolation. The hope dysregulation is one of the most painful aspects of complex trauma. It makes you feel like you are losing your mind. It makes you feel like you are a bad person. It makes you feel hopeless. But I want you to know, dysregulation is not a moral failing. It is a nervous system response. It is your body trying to protect you from a threat it believes is real. The threat is not real anymore. But your body doesn't know that. It needs to be shown. It needs to be taught gently and patiently that the war is over. This is the work of the coming chapters. We will learn to befriend the nervous system. We will learn to expand the window of tolerance. We will learn to come home to our bodies. The journey is long, but it is possible. A personal story. I remember a time when I was deeply dysregulated. I was in a meeting with a colleague. We were discussing a project, and he made a comment that I interpreted as critical. My face flushed. My heart started pounding. I felt a surge of anger. I wanted to lash out. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he didn't know what he was talking about, that he had no right to criticize me. But I paused. I took a breath. I noticed what was happening in my body, and I realized I wasn't reacting to my colleague. I was reacting to my father. My colleague's tone of voice had triggered a memory of my father criticizing me as a child. I said, "I need a moment. Can we pause this conversation?" I walked out of the room. I went to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face. I looked in the mirror and said to myself, "You are an adult. You are safe. This is not your father. This is just a colleague. You can handle this." I took a few deep breaths. I waited until my heart rate slowed down. And then I went back into the meeting. I didn't have a perfect conversation, but I didn't lose control. I stayed regulated. I was able to respond rather than react. That was a victory. A small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Over time, these victories add up. The dysregulated moments become less frequent. The snap reactions become less intense. The shame cycle becomes shorter. Healing is not about being perfect. It's about making progress. It's about showing up for yourself day after day and slowly, gently teaching your nervous system that you are safe. Let's move into the practical, embodied work. This is where we shift from understanding the problem to actively healing it. We have laid the foundation. We know about the voice, the trauma, the brain, the parts, the body, the flashbacks, the defenses, the critic, and the dysregulation. Now, we need tools. We need practices. We need to teach the nervous system that the war is over. Chapter 10. Befriending your nervous system. For most of your life, you have probably seen your body as the enemy. It betrays you with panic attacks. It embarrasses you with blushing. It exhausts you when you need energy. It tenses up when you need to relax. It hurts when you need to function. You have spent decades trying to control your body, to quiet it, to make it behave. You have tried to ignore its signals, push through its pain, and override its instincts. And it hasn't worked. Because the body does not respond to force, the body responds to safety. The body is not the enemy. It is your most loyal ally. It has been trying to protect you for your entire life. It has been sending you signals, trying to get your attention, trying to tell you that you are not safe, that you need to rest, that you need to grieve. But you have been ignoring it, or worse, you have been fighting it. It is time to make peace. It is time to befriend your nervous system. The language of the nervous system. Your nervous system speaks a language. It is not the language of words. It is the language of sensation. A tight chest means, I am anxious. I am preparing for danger. A churning stomach means, I am afraid. Something is wrong. A clenched jaw means, I am holding back. I am suppressing anger. A heavy heart means, I am grieving. I am sad. A feeling of numbness means, I am overwhelmed. I cannot feel this right now. Your body has been speaking to you your entire life, but you may not have been listening. You may have been too busy trying to control it, to quiet it, to make it stop. Befriending your nervous system begins with listening. It means learning to hear the language of sensation and to respond with compassion, not resistance. The window of tolerance revisited. We introduced the window of tolerance in Chapter 5. Let's revisit it now because it is the central concept of nervous system regulation. Imagine a window. Inside the window, you are comfortable. You feel calm, present, safe, and connected. You can think clearly. You can feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can relate to others in a healthy way. This is your optimal zone of functioning. When you are inside your window of tolerance, you can handle stress without losing control, process emotions without being flooded, think clearly and make good decisions, connect with others in a meaningful way, feel safe in your body's experience, joy and pleasure. When you are outside your window of tolerance, you go into one of two states. 1. Hyperarousal, fight or flight. You become anxious, agitated, irritable, or angry. Your heart races, your thoughts spiral. You snap at people, you can't sit still. You feel like you're going to explode. 2. Hypoarousal, freeze. You become numb, disconnected, or dissociated. You feel like you're watching yourself from outside your body. You feel heavy, lethargic, and hopeless. You can't move, you can't speak. You feel like you're not real. People who have experienced complex trauma have a very narrow window of tolerance. It takes very little to push them out of it. A minor criticism can send them into hyperarousal. A sudden loud noise can send them into hypoarousal. The goal of healing is to expand your window of tolerance, to teach your nervous system that you can handle more discomfort without going into survival mode, to help you stay present and connected, even when things are hard. This is the work of befriending your nervous system. The polyvagal theory. To understand how to expand your window of tolerance, we need to understand the polyvagal theory. This is a framework developed by Dr. Stephen Porges that explains how the nervous system responds to threat and safety. The theory describes three states of the nervous system. 1. The ventral vagal state, social engagement. This is the state of safety and connection. You feel calm, present, and open. Your heart rate is regulated. Your digestion is working. You can connect with others. This is the state you want to be in. 2. The sympathetic state, fight or flight. This is the state of mobilization. You feel anxious, agitated, or angry. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense. You are ready to fight or run. This is necessary in an emergency, but it is not sustainable. 3. The dorsal vagal state, shutdown. This is the state of immobilization. You feel numb, disconnected, or dissociated. Your heart rate drops. Your body shuts down. You are in a freeze state. This is the state of collapse. Trauma survivors often get stuck in the sympathetic or dorsal states. They can't access the ventral vagal state because their nervous systems are constantly scanning for danger. The goal of nervous system regulation is to help you access the ventral vagal state more often, to help you feel safe and connected in your body. Practical tools for regulation. Now, let's get practical. Here are the tools that will help you befriend your nervous system and expand your window of tolerance. Tool 1. The long exhale. The breath is the most powerful tool for nervous system regulation. It is the one part of the autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control. When you are in a state of hyperarousal, anxiety, anger, panic, your breath becomes shallow and rapid. This signals to your brain that you are in danger. It reinforces the stress response. But if you can slow down your breath, you can send a different signal to your brain. You can tell your brain that you are safe. How to do it? Find a comfortable position. Sit or lie down. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Breathe out through your mouth for a count of 6 or 8 if you can. Repeat for 5 to 10 breaths. The longer exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. It tells your body that it is safe to relax. Tool 2. Grounding. Grounding is the practice of connecting with the present moment through your body. It is about bringing your attention out of your head and into your senses. How to do it? Feel your feet on the floor. Press them down. Feel the solidness of the ground beneath you. Feel the weight of your body in your chair. Notice the pressure of the seat against your thighs and back. Touch something solid, a table, a wall, a tree. Feel its texture, its temperature. Look around the room. Name 5 things you see. Notice their colors, shapes, and textures. Listen to the sounds around you. Name 3 sounds you hear. Smell something. Notice any scents in the air. Grounding pulls you out of the past and into the present. It tells your nervous system, I am here, I am safe. This is not the past, this is now. Tool 3. Orienting is a specific form of grounding that is based on the way animals in the wild naturally regulate their nervous systems. When an animal experiences a threat and survives, it doesn't just walk away. It looks around. It takes in its environment. It checks to see if the threat is really gone. This is orienting. It tells the nervous system, the danger has passed, I am safe now. How to do it? When you feel dysregulated, pause. Look around the room. Let your eyes move slowly, deliberately, as if you are seeing the room for the first time. Let your eyes rest on each object for a moment. Notice the color, the shape, the texture. Follow the contours of the room. Look at the corners, the ceiling, the floor. Listen to the sounds. Feel the air on your skin. Orienting is a gentle way to bring your nervous system back into the present moment. Tool 4. The body scan. The body scan is a practice of systematically bringing your attention to different parts of your body. It is not about fixing anything. It is about listening. How to do it? Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. Bring your attention to your feet. Just notice them. Are they warm or cold? Heavy or light? Don't judge, just notice. Move your attention up to your legs, your calves, your knees, your thighs. Notice any sensations. Move to your pelvis and lower back. Notice any tension or tightness. Move to your stomach. Is it tight, hollow, churning? Just notice. Move to your chest. Is it heavy? Is your breath shallow? Just notice the rise and fall of your ribs. Move to your shoulders and neck. Are they creeping up? Are they hard as stone? Just notice. Move to your jaw. Is it clenched? Are your teeth grinding? Just notice. Move to your face, your eyes, the space between your eyebrows, your forehead. Just notice. Take one final deep breath. Gently open your eyes. The body scan trains your brain to pay attention to your body. It strengthens the neural pathways between your mind and your body. Over time, you will become more aware of the early warning signs of dysregulation. Tool 5. Self-holding. Self-holding is a practice of physically comforting yourself. It is a way to give your body the safety and reassurance it craves. How to do it? Place one hand on your chest, over your heart. Place the other hand on your belly. Feel the warmth of your hands. Feel the gentle pressure. Breathe into the space beneath your hands. Say to yourself, I am safe. I am okay. I am here. Self-holding activates the ventral vagal system. It tells your body that you are not alone, that you are cared for. Tool 6. The vagus nerve tonic. The vagus nerve is the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. It runs from your brainstem down through your neck and chest to your abdomen. It is responsible for calming your body down. You can stimulate the vagus nerve through simple practices. Humming. Humming creates vibrations that stimulate the vagus nerve. Hum a favorite song for a few minutes. Singing. Singing has the same effect. Sing along to a favorite song. Cold water. Splashing cold water on your face stimulates the vagus nerve. It triggers the dive reflex, which calms the nervous system. Gentle massage. Gently massaging your neck or the area behind your ears can stimulate the vagus nerve. Tool 7. Movement. The body is meant to move. When you are stuck in a state of hyperarousal or hypoarousal, movement can help you release the trapped energy. If you are in hyperarousal, anxious, angry, try vigorous movement, running, jumping jacks, shaking your limbs, punching a pillow. If you are in hypoarousal, numb, collapsed, try gentle movement, rocking, swaying, stretching, walking slowly. Listen to your body, let it guide you. Move in whatever way feels right. Tool 8. The pause. One of the most powerful tools for regulation is simply pausing. When you feel yourself getting triggered, you have a choice. You can react automatically, or you can pause. The pause is a micro-moment of choice. It is the space between the trigger and the response. In that space, you can choose a different path. How to do it? When you feel the trigger, pause. Take a breath. Notice what is happening in your body. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Choose a response rather than reacting. The pause is a skill. It takes practice, but over time it becomes easier. You create more space between the trigger and the response. You become less reactive and more responsive. Creating a daily practice. These tools are most effective when they are practiced regularly. You don't want to be learning how to ground yourself in the middle of a panic attack. You want to have already practiced grounding so that it becomes automatic. Create a daily nervous system practice. It doesn't have to be long. 5 to 10 minutes a day can make a profound difference. Here is a sample practice. Morning. Start your day with a body scan or a few minutes of grounding. Set an intention for the day. Say to yourself, I am safe, I am capable, I can handle what comes. Midday. Take a few minutes to check in with your body. Are you tense? Are you breathing? Take a few long exhales. Do some orienting. Reset your nervous system. Evening. Wind down with a body scan or self-holding. Gently bring your attention to your body. Release the tension of the day. Before sleep, take a few minutes to stimulate your vagus nerve. Hum, sing, or take a cold shower. Let your body know it is safe to rest. Befriending the nervous system. Befriending your nervous system is a journey. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes practice. Some days you will feel like you are making progress. Other days you will feel like you are back at square one. This is normal. This is part of the process. Be gentle with yourself. Celebrate the small victories. Notice when you regulate yourself. Notice when you pause. Notice when you choose a different response. Over time, these small victories add up. Your window of tolerance expands. You become more resilient. You become more present. You become more connected. Your nervous system is not the enemy. It is a loyal ally that has been doing its best to protect you. Now it is time to show it that the war is over. Now we move into the heart of the healing work. We have the tools to regulate the nervous system. Now we need to go deeper into the internal family system and learn how to create space between you and your wounded parts. This is where true transformation begins, not by fighting the parts, but by separating from them and relating to them with compassion. Chapter 11. Unblending. Compassionately separating from your wounded parts. You are in an argument with your partner. They say something that feels like an attack. Suddenly you are flooded with anger. Your face flushes, your fists clench, words pour out of your mouth that you don't even recognize. Afterward you feel terrible. You think, that wasn't me, I don't know who that was. That was not who I really am. And you are right. That wasn't you, that was a part of you, a wounded protector that got triggered and took over. This is called blending. It is when a part of you becomes so dominant that it takes over your entire system. You lose perspective, you lose choice, you become the part. The goal of healing is to unblend, to create space between you and your parts, to become the observer rather than the one being observed. The self, your core essence. Before we talk about unblending, we need to talk about the self. In internal family systems, the self is the core of who you are. It is the essence that exists beneath all the wounded parts. It is the calm, curious, compassionate center of your being. The self has 8 qualities, often called the 8 C's. Calm. The self is not anxious, it is serene and grounded. Curious. The self is open and inquisitive. It wants to understand. Compassionate. The self is kind and gentle. It responds with love, not judgment. Connected. The self feels connected to others and to the world. Confident. The self is secure. It knows its own worth. Courageous. The self is brave. It is willing to face difficult things. Creative. The self is resourceful and adaptable. Clear. The self has clarity. It sees things as they are. You might not feel like you have these qualities. You might feel like you are anxious, judgmental, disconnected, and insecure. That is because your parts are blocking yourself. They are so loud that you can't hear your own essence. But the self is always there. It has always been there. It cannot be damaged. It cannot be destroyed. It is the true you waiting to be discovered. What unblending feels like. Unblending is the process of separating from your parts. It is like stepping back from a movie screen. You are no longer in the movie. You are watching it from the audience. When you unblend, you experience a shift in perspective. Instead of thinking, I am angry, you think, I notice a part of me that is angry. Instead of thinking, I am terrified, you think, I notice a part of me that is terrified. Instead of thinking, I am a failure, you think, I notice a part of me that feels like a failure. This shift is profound. It creates space. It creates choice. It allows you to respond to the part with compassion rather than being consumed by it. When you unblend, you feel a sense of spaciousness, a sense of calm, a sense of curiosity, a sense of compassion, a sense of choice. You are no longer at the mercy of your parts. You are in the driver's seat. The practice of unblending. Unblending is a skill. It takes practice, but it is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. Here is a step-by-step practice for unblending. Step 1. Notice the part. The first step is to notice that a part is active. You might notice it through a strong emotion, anger, fear, shame, a physical sensation, tight chest, churning stomach, a thought pattern, criticism, catastrophizing, a behavior, snapping, withdrawing, numbing. When you notice the part, pause. Say to yourself, there is a part of me that is feeling angry, or scared, or ashamed. Step 2. Create space now. Create space between you and the part. Imagine the part is an object in the room. You can see it, but you are not it. You can use visualization. Imagine the part is a character standing in front of you. Imagine the part is a cloud floating in the sky. Imagine the part is a wave in the ocean. Whatever image works for you. The key is to see the part as separate from you. Step 3. Address the part now. Speak to the part. You can do this silently or out loud. Use a gentle, compassionate tone. Say something like, I see you. I know you are here. I know you are trying to help. I am not going to push you away. I want to understand you. The goal is not to make the part go away. The goal is to connect with it from yourself. Step 4. Get to know the part. Ask the part questions. Again, use a gentle, curious tone. What are you afraid will happen if you stop doing this job? What are you trying to protect me from? How old are you? What do you need from me? Listen for the answers. They may come as words, images, or sensations. Step 5. Respond from the self now. Respond to the part from yourself. Offer the part what it needs. If the part needs reassurance, say, "You are safe. I am an adult now. I can handle this." If the part needs validation, say, "Your fear makes sense. You went through a lot. I see you." If the part needs gratitude, say, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I know you meant well." If the part needs connection, say, "I am here. I am not going to leave you. I will stay with you." Step 6. Ask the part to step back. Once you have connected with the part, you can ask it to step back. This is not about rejecting the part. It is about giving you space to lead. Say, "I appreciate you. I know you are trying to help. But I need you to step back for a moment. I need to be in charge right now. I will come back to you later." Notice what happens. Does the part step back? Does it feel safe to let go? If the part is reluctant, that's okay. It means the part doesn't fully trust you yet. You need to build more trust. Keep connecting with it. Keep showing it that you are a safe leader. Unblending in daily life. Unblending is not just a formal practice. It can be integrated into your daily life. In the middle of a conflict, you are in an argument with your partner. You feel yourself getting angry. Pause. Take a breath. Say to yourself, "There is a part of me that is really angry right now." Create space. Feel the anger, but don't become it. Then, from yourself, respond to your partner. You might say, "I notice I'm feeling really triggered right now. I need a moment to collect myself." This is not about suppressing the anger. It is about responding from yourself, rather than acting from the angry part. In the middle of a shame spiral, you made a mistake at work. The critic is screaming at you. Pause. Take a breath. Say to yourself, "There is a part of me that is really criticizing me right now." Create space. Notice the critic. Ask it, "What are you afraid of?" The critic might answer, "I'm afraid you'll get fired. I'm afraid you'll be exposed as a fraud." Respond from yourself. "Thank you for protecting me. I know you want me to be safe, but I am an adult. I can handle this. I don't need you to be so harsh." In the middle of a flashback, you are suddenly flooded with terror. You feel like you are going to die. Pause. Take a breath. Say to yourself, "There is a part of me that is really scared right now." Create space. Notice the fear. Ask it, "What are you afraid of?" The fear might answer, "I'm afraid of being alone. I'm afraid no one is coming for me." Respond from yourself. "I see you, I know you are afraid, but I am here now. I am an adult. I am not going to leave you. You are safe." The challenges of unblending. Unblending is simple, but it is not easy. There are common challenges that arise. Challenge 1. The part is too strong. Sometimes a part is so strong that it feels impossible to unblend. The anger is overwhelming. The fear is paralyzing. When this happens, don't force it. Don't try to push the part away. Instead, do the opposite. Move closer to it. Say to the part, "I feel you. You are really strong right now. I'm going to stay with you." Sometimes the part needs to be fully felt before it can relax. Let the emotion wash over you. Feel it fully. And then when it passes, you will have more space. Challenge 2. The part is unfamiliar. Sometimes you may notice a part that you have never noticed before. It feels foreign. It doesn't feel like you. This is a sign that you are going deeper into your inner world. It's okay to not understand the part right away. Just be curious. Ask the part, who are you? What is your job? Listen for the answer. It may take time. Be patient. Challenge 3. The part is resistant. Sometimes a part may not want to step back. It doesn't trust you. It doesn't believe you can handle things. This is common, especially with protectors. They have been in charge for a long time. They are not going to give up their job overnight. Keep showing up for the part. Keep offering compassion. Keep demonstrating that you are a safe leader. Over time, the part will begin to trust you. Challenge 4. The part is in exile. Sometimes you may unblend and find yourself face to face with an exile, a young wounded part that holds a lot of pain. This can be overwhelming. If this happens, you may need to call in a protector. You may need to say, I see you, little one. I know you are hurting, but I need some help to stay with you. You can ask a protector to be present. You can ask your therapist, a friend, or a spiritual guide to be with you. You don't have to face the exile alone. The role of self-compassion. Unblending is an act of self-compassion. It is the practice of treating yourself with kindness, understanding, and love. When you unblend, you are saying to your parts, I see you, I accept you, I am not going to judge you. This is the opposite of what the critic does. The critic judges, condemns, and attacks. Unblending is the antidote to the critic. If you struggle with self-compassion, that's okay. It's a skill that can be learned. Start small. Notice when you are being harsh with yourself. Pause. Say, I notice a part of me that is being really harsh right now. Just noticing is the first step. Over time, the noticing becomes easier. Over time, the compassion grows. Personal story. Unblending from the critic. I want to share a personal story to illustrate the power of unblending. I have a part that I call the achiever. This part is driven, ambitious, and relentless. It has been with me since childhood. It was the part that got good grades, won awards, and pushed me to succeed. For a long time, I thought the achiever was me. I identified with it completely. I thought I was ambitious because that's just who I was. But the achiever was exhausting. It never let me rest. It always pushed me to do more, be more, achieve more. It told me I wasn't good enough unless I was achieving. One day I was sitting in my office, exhausted. I had been working for hours. I was burnt out. The achiever was screaming at me to keep going, but I couldn't. I paused. I took a breath. I said to myself, there is a part of me that is really pushing me right now. I created space. I asked the part, what are you afraid will happen if you stop pushing? The achiever answered, I'm afraid you'll be a failure. I'm afraid people will see you're not good enough. I'm afraid you'll be abandoned. I was stunned. The achiever wasn't a tyrant, it was a terrified child. It was trying to protect me from the pain of rejection. I felt a wave of compassion. I said to the achiever, thank you for trying to protect me. I know you mean well, but I am an adult now. I am safe. I don't need to prove myself anymore. You can rest now. The achiever softened. It didn't disappear. It doesn't need to disappear. But it stepped back. It gave me space. I was able to stop working. I was able to rest. I was able to be kind to myself. That moment of unblending changed my relationship with the achiever. I still have ambition. I still work hard. But I am no longer driven by fear. I am driven by choice. The ultimate goal of unblending is to help you live from yourself more often. To help you respond from a place of calm, curiosity, and compassion, rather than reacting from your wounded parts. When you live from yourself, you make choices that reflect your true values, not your wounds. Respond to challenges with clarity and courage, not fear and avoidance. Connect with others from a place of authenticity, not defense. Experience life with more joy, peace, and fulfillment. This is the goal of the healing journey. It is not about getting rid of your parts. It is about bringing them into relationship with yourself. It is about becoming a wise, compassionate leader of your internal family, and it starts with unblending. This is the deepest, most sacred chapter in the book. Everything we have done so far, understanding the voice, the trauma, the brain, the parts, the body, the defenses, the critic, the dysregulation, and the unblending, has been preparing us for this moment. We are now going to sit with the exiles. We are going to feel what we have been avoiding. We are going to grieve. Chapter 12, Grieving the Unlived Life. You have done the work. You have learned about trauma. You have mapped your parts. You have learned to regulate your nervous system. You have practiced unblending. You have created space between you and your wounded parts. Now, you are ready to face what is in the basement. The exiles are waiting. They have been waiting for a long time. They have been locked away, silenced, ignored. They carry the deepest pain, the shame, the terror, the grief, the abandonment. They are the parts of you that were too much to bear. And now it is time to open the door. This is the most difficult part of the healing journey. It is also the most essential. Because you cannot heal what you cannot feel. You cannot release what you have not acknowledged. You cannot unburden what you have not grieved. This chapter is about grief. It is about the grief of the unlived life, the person you could have been, the childhood you should have had, the love you deserved but didn't receive. Grief is the bridge to healing. We must cross it. The necessity of grief. Our culture is terrible at grief. We are taught to move on, to stay positive, to look on the bright side. We are told that sadness is weakness, that anger is bad, that we should just get over it. But this is spiritual bypassing. It is a way of avoiding the pain rather than processing it. And it doesn't work. The pain doesn't go away. It just gets buried deeper. It festers. It becomes depression, anxiety, chronic pain, addiction. The only way out is through. Grief is the natural response to loss. And you have experienced profound losses. The loss of a safe childhood. The loss of a parent who was emotionally unavailable. The loss of your authentic self. The loss of trust in others. The loss of trust in yourself. The loss of the person you could have become. The loss of innocence. The loss of safety in your own body. These losses are real. They are significant. And they deserve to be grieved. The two pillars of grief, anger and sadness. Grief has two primary emotions, anger and sadness. Anger is the emotion of injustice. It arises when something has been taken from you, when you have been wronged, when boundaries have been violated. Anger says, "This should not have happened. This is not fair." Sadness is the emotion of loss. It arises when you have lost something precious, when you are separated from what you love, when you miss what is gone. Sadness says, "I miss this. I wish this had been different. My heart is breaking." Both of these emotions are necessary for healing. You cannot truly grieve without feeling both. But for trauma survivors, anger and sadness are often blocked. You were not allowed to be angry as a child. You were not allowed to be sad. You were told to be good, to stop crying, to get over it. So you learn to suppress these emotions. You learn to numb them. You learn to pretend they didn't exist, but they do exist. They are there, frozen in your body, waiting to be released. The anger. Let's start with anger. Many trauma survivors are terrified of their own anger. They have seen anger used destructively, as a weapon, as a tool of control, as a source of violence. They have vowed never to be like that. They have suppressed their anger so deeply that they can barely feel it. But anger is not inherently destructive. It is a natural, healthy emotion. It is the energy of boundaries. It is the force that says, "This is not okay. I will not accept this. I deserve better." Anger is the emotion that protects us. It is the emotion that motivates us to change. It is the emotion that says, "No more." If you cannot feel your anger, you cannot set boundaries. You cannot protect yourself. You cannot say no. You will continue to be a doormat, a people pleaser, a victim. So we must make space for anger. We must allow it to surface. We must let it speak. Where does the anger belong? The anger belongs with the people who failed you. It belongs with the parent who was absent. It belongs with the caregiver who criticized you. It belongs with the teacher who shamed you. It belongs with the sibling who tormented you. It belongs with the partner who betrayed you. The anger is not about the present. It is about the past. It is about the child who was not protected, not seen, not loved. When you feel anger, ask yourself, who am I angry at? Who failed me? Who hurt me? Let the anger speak. Let it say what it needs to say. Let it rage if it needs to rage. How to safely express anger? Write a letter. Write a letter to the person who hurt you. Don't send it, or just write it. Let it be raw, unfiltered, and honest. Say everything you never got to say. Use physical movement. Anger is energy. It needs to be released. Punch a pillow. Hit a mattress with a tennis racket. Go for a run. Scream into a pillow. Move your body. Use visualization. Imagine the person who hurt you is sitting in a chair in front of you. Tell them what you are angry about. Let them have it. Speak to the part. If the anger is coming from a part, speak to that part. Say, "I hear you. I know you are angry. You have every right to be. I am here with you." The goal is not to stay in anger forever. The goal is to let it move through you, to feel it fully, express it safely, and then let it go. The tragedy of suppressed anger. I worked with a patient named James. James was a gentle, kind man. He never got angry. He never raised his voice. He was a peacemaker. But James was also deeply depressed. He had no energy. He had no passion. He felt like a zombie. In therapy, we traced his depression back to his suppressed anger. James had grown up with a tyrannical father. His father had been cruel and controlling. James had learned that anger was dangerous. If he got angry, his father would punish him. So James swallowed his anger. He buried it deep. He became a nice guy, but the anger didn't disappear. It turned inward. It became depression. It became self-hatred. It became a feeling of being dead inside. When James finally allowed himself to feel his anger, to rage at his father, to scream into a pillow, to write a letter he never sent, something shifted. The depression began to lift. He started to feel alive again. Anger was the doorway to his healing. The sadness. Once the anger has been expressed, the sadness can emerge. Sadness is the grief of the heart. It is the recognition of what was lost. It is the mourning of what could have been. For trauma survivors, the sadness is often overwhelming. It is the sadness of the child who was not held, the sadness of the teenager who was not seen, the sadness of the adult who is still trying to earn love. This sadness is not just about the past. It is also about the present. It is the grief of the unlived life, the person you could have become if you had been raised in a safe, nurturing environment. What is the unlived life? The unlived life is the life you would have lived without trauma. It is the child who would have laughed freely without fear of being judged. It is the teenager who would have explored their identity without fear of being rejected. It is the adult who would have pursued their passions without fear of being a fraud. It is the person who would have loved openly without fear of being abandoned. It is the person who would have trusted themselves without the constant voice of self-doubt. Grieving the unlived life is not about wallowing in self-pity. It is about honoring the loss. It is about acknowledging that something precious was taken from you. It is about allowing yourself to feel the weight of that loss. How to grieve the sadness. Let yourself cry. Tears are the language of grief. If you feel like crying, let yourself cry. Don't hold back. Don't judge yourself. Just let the tears flow. Write a eulogy. Write a eulogy for the person you could have been. Honor the life that was lost. Speak of what was stolen from you. Write a letter to your younger self. Write a letter to the child you were. Tell them you see them. Tell them you are sorry for what they went through. Tell them you love them. Tell them you are here now. Hold yourself. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the warmth of your hand. Say to yourself, I am sorry for what you went through. I am here now. You are not alone. Sit with the exile. If you have access to an exile, sit with them. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to make them feel better. Just be with them. Let them cry. Let them rage. Let them tell you their story. The deepest grief, what you never had. Perhaps the deepest grief is not for what you lost, but for what you never had. You cannot grieve what you never had. You cannot mourn the love you never received. You cannot mourn the safety you never felt. You cannot mourn the mirroring you never experienced. But you can grieve the absence. You can grieve the void. You can grieve the empty space where love should have been. This is the grief of the invisible wound. It is the grief of the child who was never seen, the child who was never held, the child who was never told, I love you just as you are. This grief is profound. It is the source of the deepest pain, and it must be felt. How to grieve the absence. Acknowledge it. Say out loud, I never had the love I needed. I never had the safety I needed. I never had the mirroring I needed. Say it as many times as you need to. Feel the pain. Let yourself feel the pain of the absence, the ache in your chest, the emptiness in your stomach. Let it be there. Don't push it away. Ask the exile what they needed. If you have access to an exile, ask them, what did you need? What did you need that you didn't get? Listen to the answer. Let it break your heart. Give it now. Give to the exile what they needed. If they needed to be held, imagine holding them. If they needed to be told they are loved, tell them. If they needed to be seen, see them. Give it to them now in your imagination. The grief is not a one-time event. Grief is not linear. It doesn't happen once and then you're done. It comes in waves. You may feel fine for weeks, and then a wave of sadness crashes over you. This is normal. This is healthy. This is the process of healing. When the wave comes, let it come. Don't fight it. Don't suppress it. Let it wash over you. Let it pass through you. And when it passes, you will feel lighter. Each time you grieve, you are releasing a little more of the frozen energy. You are moving the trauma through your system. You are letting it go. What grief is not. I want to be clear about what grief is not. Grief is not self-pity. Self-pity is a feeling of victimhood that keeps you stuck. Grief is an active process of releasing pain. Grief is not wallowing. Wallowing is staying in the pain without moving through it. Grief is feeling the pain and letting it move. Grief is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of courage. It takes tremendous courage to feel the pain you have been avoiding. Grief is not a destination. It is a journey. It is a process that takes time. You don't finish grieving. You simply learn to carry the grief in a different way. The promise of grief. I want to offer you a promise. It is a promise that has been borne out in my own life and in the lives of countless patients. If you are willing to grieve, you will heal. Not perfectly, Not completely, but you will heal. You will unburden the exiles. You will release the frozen energy. You will come home to yourself. The grief is the price of admission. It is the toll you must pay to cross the bridge into a new life. And on the other side of the grief is something beautiful. On the other side is joy. Not the brittle, forced joy of pretending everything is fine, but the deep, grounded joy of a person who has faced their pain and come through it. Patient example. Maria came to therapy with a long history of depression. She had tried everything: medication, talk therapy, exercise, diet. Nothing worked. She was a successful lawyer, a loving mother, and a devoted wife. But she felt hollow inside. She felt like she was going through the motions of life. We explored her childhood. Maria had grown up with a mother who was emotionally distant. Her mother had never hugged her, never told her she was loved, never said she was proud of her. Maria had always known this was a loss, but she had never grieved it. She had just pushed it down. She had told herself it wasn't that bad. She did the best she could. One day in session, Maria broke down. She sobbed for an hour. She cried for the little girl who just wanted to be held. She cried for the teenager who wanted her mother to come to her school plays. She cried for the adult who was still trying to earn her mother's love. It was the hardest session of her therapy. It was also the most healing. After that session, Maria started to feel different. The hollow feeling began to fill. The depression began to lift. She started to feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. Maria had to grieve. She had to feel the pain she had been avoiding, and in doing so, she found her way back to herself. Your turn. I cannot grieve for you. I cannot sit with your exiles. I cannot hold your younger self. Only you can do that. But I can be here witnessing you. I can tell you that it is safe to grieve. I can tell you that your pain is valid. I can tell you that on the other side of the grief is freedom. So, if you are ready, I want to invite you to grieve, to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, to sit with the exiles. It will be painful. It will be hard. You may want to run away. But if you stay, if you let yourself feel, you will discover something miraculous. You are still here, you survived, and you are strong enough to carry this. The grief will not kill you, it will heal you. We have done the deepest work. We have faced the exiles, felt the anger, and grieved the losses. Now, we must begin the process of rebuilding. We must take the raw materials of our pain and forge them into a new story. A story that reflects who we truly are, not what our trauma told us we were. Chapter 13. Rewriting the narrative, the story you tell yourself. You have been telling yourself a story for a very long time. It is a story that goes something like this. I am broken. I am not enough. I am a fraud. I am unlovable. I am a burden. I am too much. I am not worthy. I am fundamentally defective. This story is not true. But it feels true. It feels like the deepest, most fundamental truth about who you are. This story was written in your childhood. It was written by the people who failed to see you, who criticized you, who neglected you, who hurt you. It was written by your environment, by the culture you grew up in, by the voices that surrounded you. You didn't choose this story, it was imposed on you. It was a survival adaptation, a way to make sense of a world that didn't make sense. But now you are an adult. You are no longer in that environment. You have power. You have choice. You can write a new story. The power of narrative. The stories we tell ourselves shape our lives. They determine how we see ourselves, how we see others, and how we see the world. They determine what we believe is possible, what we are willing to try, and what we think we deserve. A story of worthlessness will keep you small. It will prevent you from taking risks, from pursuing your dreams, from loving openly. A story of empowerment will set you free. It will open up possibilities, give you courage, and help you connect with others. The good news is that stories can be rewritten. The neural pathways that hold the old story can be weakened. The neural pathways that hold the new story can be strengthened. This is the work of rewriting the narrative. The old story. Before we can write a new story, we must understand the old one. We must examine it, unpack it, and see it for what it is. A construction, not a truth. Step 1. Identify the old story. Take a moment to reflect. What is the story you have been telling yourself? I am not good enough. I am a failure. I am unlovable. I am a fraud. I am too much. I am not enough. I am broken. I am a burden. I am worthless. Write it down. Be honest. Don't censor yourself. Step 2. Trace the origins. Where did this story come from? Who taught it to you? A parent who criticized you, a teacher who shamed you, a sibling who bullied you, a partner who betrayed you, a culture that told you you weren't good enough? Write down the origins of the story. Who was in the room? What was said? What was done? Step 3. Examine the evidence. Now, examine the evidence. Is the story actually true, or is it a distortion? If you believe you are not good enough, look at your life. What have you accomplished? What have you overcome? What do others say about you? If you believe you are unlovable, look at the people who love you. Are they real? Are their feelings genuine? Or are you projecting your own self-hatred onto them? Be honest, look at the objective evidence. You may be surprised to find that the story doesn't hold up. Step 4. Understand the function. Why did you need this story? What function did it serve? The story of worthlessness might have kept you from taking risks and potentially failing. The story of being a burden might have kept you from asking for help and potentially being rejected. The story of being a fraud might have kept you from stepping into the spotlight and potentially being exposed. The story was a protector. It kept you safe. It was a survival adaptation. But it is no longer serving you. It is keeping you trapped. The new story. Now, it is time to write a new story. A story that reflects who you truly are, not what your trauma told you to be. This new story is not about pretending that the past didn't happen. It is not about positive thinking or toxic positivity. It is about integrating the past into a larger, more truthful narrative. Step 1. Identify your true qualities. Who are you, really? What are your true qualities? Are you kind? Are you loyal? Are you creative? Are you resilient? Are you compassionate? Are you brave? Are you intelligent? Are you funny? Are you generous? Write down your true qualities. Don't be modest. This is not the time for false humility. This is the time to see yourself clearly. Step 2. Acknowledge your strengths. What have you overcome? What have you survived? What have you achieved? You have survived your childhood. You have survived your trauma. You have built a life for yourself. You have learned and grown. You have helped others. You have contributed to the world. Acknowledge your strengths. You are not a victim. You are a survivor. And you are so much more than that. Step 3. Reframe the past. The past cannot be changed, but it can be reframed. You can look at the same events and see them differently. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of your parents' neglect, see yourself as a child who was resilient enough to survive. Instead of seeing yourself as a failure because you made mistakes, see yourself as a person who learned from those mistakes. Instead of seeing yourself as broken, see yourself as a person who has been wounded but is healing. Reframing is not about denying the pain. It is about placing the pain in a larger context. It is about seeing the whole picture. Step 4. Create a new mantra. Create a new mantra that reflects your new story. It should be simple, powerful, and true. I am worthy of love. I am enough exactly as I am. I am resilient and strong. I am capable of change. I am deserving of good things. I am worthy of being seen. I am safe now. I am not broken. I am healing. Write your new mantra. Repeat it to yourself. Write it on sticky notes and put them on your mirror, your refrigerator, your dashboard. Say it out loud. Say it when you wake up, when you go to sleep, and when the old story starts to creep back in. Step 5. Act as if a new story is not just words. It must be lived. It must be embodied. Start acting as if your new story were true. This is not about pretending. It is about practicing. If your new story is, I am worthy of love, practice treating yourself with love. Take care of yourself. Speak kindly to yourself. Do things that nourish you. If your new story is, I am enough, practice accepting yourself as you are. Stop trying to be perfect. Let yourself be human. If your new story is, I am resilient, practice stepping into challenges. Take small risks. See what happens. Acting as if is not about faking it. It is about giving your nervous system new experiences. It is about showing your brain that the old story is no longer true. Step 6. Gather evidence. As you act as if, gather evidence. Notice when things go well. Notice when you handle a challenge. Notice when you feel good about yourself. Write down the evidence. Keep a journal. Collect stories of your success. Over time, the evidence will accumulate. Your brain will start to believe the new story. The old story will begin to fade. The evidence-based approach. I want to emphasize that rewriting the narrative is not about blind faith. It is about evidence. It is about looking at the facts and drawing a different conclusion. If you believe you are not enough, look at the evidence to the contrary. What have you achieved? What have you contributed? How have you helped others? The evidence will show you that you are, in fact, enough. You may not be perfect. You may have flaws, but you are enough. This is not about denying your flaws. It is about seeing them in context. It is about recognizing that your flaws do not define you. The integration of the old and new rewriting. The narrative does not mean erasing the past. It means integrating the past into a larger, more truthful story. The old story is not entirely false. Parts of it were true. You did experience pain. You did suffer. You did have to adapt to survive. But the old story is incomplete. It doesn't include your resilience. It doesn't include your growth. It doesn't include the person you have become. The new story includes everything. It includes the pain and the growth. It includes the suffering and the survival. It includes the wounds and the healing. The new story is more complete. It is more honest. It is more true. Patient example, Daniel revisited. Remember Daniel from chapter 7, the man with the avoidance shield who couldn't connect with his wife. After months of therapy, Daniel began to rewrite his narrative. His old story was, I am a burden. My presence is intrusive. The safest thing to do is to disappear. This story was written in his childhood, when his depressed mother had snapped at him for trying to comfort her. But Daniel had grown. He was no longer 8 years old. He had a wife who loved him and children who needed him. He had a life that was full of connection. Daniel's new story was, I am not a burden. My presence matters. I have a right to take up space. I have a right to be seen. It took time for Daniel to believe this story. He had to practice it. He had to act as if it were true. He had to stay in the room when he wanted to leave. He had to speak when he wanted to be silent. He had to let himself be seen. But over time, the new story began to feel true. Daniel started to connect with his wife and children in ways he never had before. He started to feel alive. He started to feel like he belonged. Daniel had rewritten his narrative, and in doing so, he had rewritten his life. The new story in daily life. Your new story will guide you in your daily life. It will help you make decisions, navigate challenges, and connect with others. When you feel the old story creeping back in, pause. Remind yourself of the new story. Say your mantra. Gather your evidence. The old story will not disappear overnight. It has been with you for a long time. It will take time to fully replace it. But every time you choose the new story, you are weakening the old one. You are building new neural pathways. You are becoming the person you want to be. Personal story, the writer's journey. I want to share a personal story about rewriting the narrative. For most of my life, I believed I was a fraud. I believed that any success I had was just luck. I believed that if people really knew me, they would reject me. This story was written in my childhood. I had a parent who was never satisfied. No matter what I achieved, it was never enough. I learned that I had to be perfect to be loved. When I started writing, the critic was relentless. It told me I was a terrible writer. It told me my work was garbage. It told me I should give up. But I kept writing. I kept practicing. I kept putting my work out into the world. And slowly, I started to gather evidence that the critic was wrong. People read my work and said it was good. People told me I had helped them. People said I had a gift. The evidence began to accumulate, and slowly my story began to change. My new story is, I am a writer. My words matter. I have something to say. I am worthy of being heard. I still hear the critics sometimes. It still tells me I'm a fraud, but I don't believe it anymore. I have too much evidence to the contrary. The promise of the new story. When you rewrite your narrative, everything changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a survivor. You stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing yourself as healing. You stop seeing yourself as a burden and start seeing yourself as a gift. You stop seeing yourself as unlovable and start seeing yourself as worthy of love. You stop seeing yourself as a fraud and start seeing yourself as capable. You become free to live the life you were meant to live. You become free to be who you really are. This is the promise of the new story. We have done the internal work. We have faced the wounds, befriended the parts, regulated the nervous system, grieved the losses, and rewritten the narrative. Now, we must bring this healing into the external world. We must learn to relate to others from ourself, not from our wounds. This is where the healing becomes visible, in our relationships, our connections, our ability to love and be loved. Chapter 14. Relating from the self, not the wound. You have done the work. You have healed, or you are healing. You have learned to regulate your nervous system. You have befriended your parts. You have grieved your losses. You have rewritten your narrative. Now, you must bring this healing into your relationships. This is the final frontier. This is where the rubber meets the road. Because trauma is not just an internal experience, it is a relational one. It was formed in relationship, and it must be healed in relationship. For most of your life, you have related to others from your wounds. You have been the anxious clinger, the avoidant withdrawer, the chaotic pusher-puller. You have been the people-pleaser, the perfectionist, the invisible one. But now, you have a choice. You can relate from yourself, the calm, curious, compassionate center of your being. You can show up as who you really are, not as who your trauma told you to be. This is the art of relating from the self. The wound and the self in relationship. Before we talk about how to relate from the self, We need to understand the difference between relating from the wound and relating from the self. Relating from the wound. You are reactive. You snap, withdraw, or cling. You are defensive. You protect yourself at all costs. You are fearful. You anticipate rejection, abandonment, or criticism. You are controlling. You try to manage the other person's behavior. You are performing. You try to be who the other person wants you to be. You are invisible. You hide your true self to avoid being hurt. Relating from the self, you are responsive. You pause, reflect, and choose your response. You are open. You let yourself be seen, even when it's scary. You are grounded. You feel safe in your body and in the relationship. You are authentic. You show up as who you really are. You are compassionate. You hold yourself and the other person with kindness. You are connected. You feel a genuine sense of closeness and trust. Relating from the self is not about being perfect. It is about being present. It is about showing up as your authentic self, even when it's hard. The challenge of relating from the self. Relating from the self is challenging for trauma survivors. It requires us to trust. We must trust that the other person will not hurt us. We must trust that we can handle it if they do. Be vulnerable. We must let ourselves be seen. We must share our true feelings, needs, and desires. Set boundaries. We must say no when we need to. We must protect ourselves without being defensive. Stay present. We must stay in the moment even when it's uncomfortable. We must not dissociate or shut down. Accept imperfection. We must accept that we will make mistakes. We must accept that the other person will make mistakes. These are not easy things. They require practice. They require courage. They require a willingness to be uncomfortable. But they are possible, and they are the path to true connection. The foundation. Safety. Before you can relate from the self, you need to feel safe. This is non-negotiable. If you are in a relationship where you do not feel safe, physically, emotionally, or psychologically, you cannot relate from yourself. You will be in survival mode. You will be reacting from your wounds. So the first step is to assess safety. Is this a safe person? Is this a safe environment? Signs of a safe person. They are consistent. They don't blow hot and cold. They are respectful. They honor your boundaries. They are trustworthy. They keep their promises. They are empathetic. They try to understand your feelings. They are accountable. They admit when they are wrong. They are patient. They give you space to be yourself. They are kind. They treat you with gentleness and respect. Signs of an unsafe person. They are unpredictable. You never know what mood they will be in. They are disrespectful. They ignore or violate your boundaries. They are untrustworthy. They lie, cheat, or break promises. They are dismissive. They minimize your feelings or experiences. They are defensive. They never admit when they are wrong. They are impatient. They pressure you to be different than you are. They are cruel. They say hurtful things or treat you badly. If you are in an unsafe relationship, you must prioritize your safety. You may need to leave the relationship. You may need to set strong boundaries. You may need to seek support from a therapist, a support group, or a trusted friend. You cannot heal in an unsafe environment. You cannot relate from yourself when you are in survival mode. The skills of relating from the self. Once you have established safety, you can begin to practice relating from the self. Here are the key skills. Skill 1. Pause and breathe. When you feel triggered in a relationship, pause. Take a breath. Notice what is happening in your body. This pause is the most important skill. It creates space between the trigger and the response. It allows you to choose your response rather than react automatically. Skill 2. Check in with your parts. When you pause, check in with your parts. What is happening inside you? Is there a part that is angry? Is there a part that is scared? Is there a part that wants to withdraw? Is there a part that wants to cling? Acknowledge the part. Say to it, I see you. I know you are here. I know you are trying to protect me. I am going to take it from here. Skill 3. Speak from the self. When you are ready to respond, speak from yourself. This means use I statements. I feel, rather than you make me feel. Take responsibility for your feelings. I am feeling anxious right now, rather than you are making me anxious. Be honest. Share what is really going on for you. I'm feeling triggered right now. I need a moment. Be compassionate. Speak with kindness even when you are setting a boundary. I love you, but I need some space right now. Skill 4. Set boundaries. Boundaries are essential for relating from the self. They protect you without shutting the other person out. A boundary is not a wall. It is a gate. It lets the good in and keeps the bad out. A boundary is not about controlling the other person. It is about protecting yourself. A boundary is not aggressive. It is assertive. It is clear, calm, and firm. How to set a boundary? Be clear. I need you to stop raising your voice. I can't have this conversation when you are yelling. Be calm. I understand you are upset, but I need to take a break. I'll come back to this conversation when I'm ready. Be firm. I have told you before that I need you to respect my time. If you continue to be late, I will need to reconsider this relationship. Skill 5. Practice vulnerability. Vulnerability is the heart of connection. It is the willingness to be seen, even when it's scary. Share your feelings. I feel scared to tell you this, but I need to be honest. Share your needs. I need more support right now. Can we talk about this? Share your fears. I'm afraid you're going to leave me. I know that's not rational, but it's how I feel. Share your hopes. I really want this relationship to work. I love you. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. It is the courage to be seen, to be known, to be loved for who you really are. Skill 6. Accept imperfection. No relationship is perfect. You will make mistakes. The other person will make mistakes. This is part of being human. When you make a mistake, apologize. I'm sorry, I was reactive. I didn't mean to hurt you. When the other person makes a mistake, offer grace. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. I forgive you. When things get hard, stay. I know this is difficulty, but I am committed to working through it. Accepting imperfection is the key to lasting relationships. It allows you to weather the storms that inevitably arise. The dance of repair. One of the most important aspects of relating from the self is the dance of repair. In any relationship, there will be ruptures. You will hurt each other. You will disappoint each other. You will misunderstand each other. The question is not whether there will be ruptures. The question is whether you can repair them. Repair is the process of coming back together after a rupture. It is the act of reconnecting, of making amends, restoring trust. The steps of repair. Step 1. Acknowledge the rupture. I know I hurt you. I know I made a mistake. Step 2. Take responsibility. I was reactive. I didn't handle that well. I'm sorry. Step 3. Understand the impact. I can see how much that hurt you. I can see the pain in your eyes. Step 4. Make amends. What can I do to make this right? How can I repair the trust? Step 5. Commit to change. I am going to work on this. I am going to be more careful in the future. Step 6. Reconnect. I love you. I am here. I am not going anywhere. Repair is the glue that holds relationships together. It is the practice of coming back to each other again and again. The role of self-compassion. Relating from the self requires self-compassion. You cannot show compassion to others if you cannot show it to yourself. When you make a mistake in a relationship, be gentle with yourself. Say to yourself, I am human, I am learning, I will do better next time. When you feel triggered, be kind to yourself. Say to yourself, this is hard, I am doing the best I can, I am allowed to feel this way. Self-compassion is not selfish, it is necessary. It is the fuel that allows you to show up for others. Patient example, Elena revisited. Remember Elena from chapter 9, the woman who would snap at her team, her husband, and her children. After months of therapy, Elena began to relate from herself. She learned to pause when she felt the anger rising. She learned to check in with her parts. She learned to speak from herself. One evening, she was cooking dinner with her husband. He made a comment about the recipe. It was a harmless comment. But Elena felt the familiar rage rising. She paused. She took a breath. She said, I notice I'm feeling really triggered right now. I think I'm reacting to something from my past. I need a moment. She walked out of the kitchen. She went to the bedroom. She sat down and did some grounding. She felt the anger. She asked it, what are you afraid of? The anger responded, I'm afraid of being criticized. I'm afraid of not being good enough. I'm afraid of being rejected. Elena said to the anger, I see you. I know you are trying to protect me. But I am safe now. My husband is not my father. He is not going to reject me. She went back to the kitchen. She said to her husband, I'm sorry I walked away. I was feeling triggered. I'm okay now. Can we continue cooking together? Her husband said, Of course. I'm sorry if I said something that upset you. They continued cooking. The evening was saved. Elena had related from herself. She had responded rather than reacted. She had repaired the rupture. She had shown up as her authentic self. The relationship with yourself. Before you can relate to others from yourself, you must relate to yourself from yourself. This means treating yourself with compassion, not criticism. Listening to your needs and honoring them. Setting boundaries with yourself. For example, not overworking, not neglecting your health. Speaking kindly to yourself as you would to a beloved friend. Giving yourself permission to be imperfect. The relationship with yourself is the foundation of all relationships. When you are kind to yourself, you can be kind to others. When you are honest with yourself, you can be honest with others. When you love yourself, you can love others. The promise of relating from the self. When you learn to relate from yourself, everything changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop hiding and start being seen. You stop controlling and start connecting. You stop fearing and start trusting. You stop performing and start being authentic. You become capable of true intimacy. You become capable of giving and receiving love. You become capable of creating the relationships you have always wanted. This is the promise of healing. This is the promise of relating from the self. We have reached the final destination. This is the chapter that gives meaning to all the work that has come before. After facing the wounds, befriending the parts, regulating the nervous system, grieving the losses, rewriting the narrative, and learning to relate from the self, we must now ask the most important question. Who are you really when the trauma is not running the show? Chapter 15. Discovering your true essence. You have been on a long journey. You have faced the voice in your head and traced it back to its origins. You have learned about complex trauma and how it shaped your brain and nervous system. You have mapped the internal family of your psyche, the exiles, the managers, and the firefighters. You have learned to listen to your body and to regulate your nervous system. You have faced the emotional flashbacks and learned to navigate them. You have examined your defensive patterns and the shields you carry. You have befriended the inner critic and transformed it from a tyrant into an ally. You have learned to recognize and manage dysregulation. You have practiced grounding, orienting, and self-holding. You have learned to unblend from your parts and connect with yourself. You have grieved the losses of the past and the unlived life. You have rewritten the narrative that kept you trapped. You have learned to relate to others from yourself, not your wounds. You have done the work. Now, you must ask yourself the most important question of all. Who am I, really? Not who your trauma told you to be, not who your parents wanted you to be, not who your culture pressured you to be, not who your wounded parts needed you to be, but who are you in your essence? The unveiling. When the exiles are heard, the managers relax and the firefighters stand down. What is left? What is left is the self, the core of who you are, the essence that has been there all along, buried beneath the layers of trauma, protection, and adaptation. The self has 8 qualities. We introduced them in Chapter 11, but let's revisit them now, because they are the key to discovering your true essence. 1. Calm. The self is calm. It is not anxious, agitated, or overwhelmed. It is grounded, steady, and at peace. When you are connected to yourself, you can face challenges without losing your center. You can be present with difficult emotions without being swept away by them. You can rest in a state of inner peace. 2. Curiosity. The self is curious. It is open, inquisitive, and interested in the world. When you are connected to yourself, you approach life with wonder. You want to learn, explore, and understand. You are not defensive or closed off. You are open to new experiences and new perspectives. 3. Compassion. The self is compassionate. It is kind, gentle, and loving. When you are connected to yourself, you treat yourself and others with kindness. You respond to suffering with empathy and care. You are not judgmental or critical. You are forgiving and understanding. 4. Connection. The self is connected. It feels a sense of belonging and interdependence. When you are connected to yourself, you feel connected to others. You recognize that we are all in this together. You are not isolated or alone. You are part of something larger than yourself. 5. Confidence. The self is confident. It is secure, grounded, and self-assured. When you are connected to yourself, you know your own worth. You don't need external validation to feel good about yourself. You trust yourself and your abilities. You're not arrogant, but you are certain of your value. 6. Courage. The self is courageous. It is brave, resilient, and willing to face challenges. When you are connected to yourself, you are not afraid of difficulty. You know you can handle what comes. You are willing to take risks, to be vulnerable, and to step into the unknown. 7. Creativity. The self is creative. It is resourceful, inventive, and expressive. When you are connected to yourself, you are able to create. You can write, paint, sing, dance, build, or solve problems. You are not blocked or stifled. You are free to express your unique gifts. 8. Clarity. The self is clear. It has insight, wisdom, and perspective. When you are connected to yourself, you see things as they are. You are not confused or overwhelmed. You have a clear sense of what is true and what is right. You can make decisions with confidence and wisdom. These qualities are not things you have to develop. They are already there. They are your birthright. They are the essence of who you are. The work of healing is simply to remove the obstacles, the wounded parts, the protective strategies, the old narratives that have been blocking these qualities from shining through. What do you actually want? One of the most liberating questions you can ask yourself is, what do I actually want? Not what your parents wanted for you, not what your culture told you to want, not what your wounded parts wanted to protect you from, but what do you want? For most trauma survivors, this is a difficult question. You have spent so long trying to survive, to please others, to be what others needed you to be, that you have lost touch with your own desires. You may not even know what you want. You may not know what brings you joy. You may not know what you are passionate about. This is the work of discovering your true essence. It is the work of getting curious about yourself. It is the work of exploring, experimenting, and finding out what lights you up. How to discover what you want. Try new things. Take a class. Join a club. Try a new hobby. See what sparks your interest. Ask yourself questions. What do I enjoy? What makes me feel alive? What do I look forward to? Pay attention to your energy. Notice what gives you energy and what drains you. Follow the energy. Give yourself permission to explore. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to explore. Let go of expectations. You don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to try. The process of discovering what you want is not about finding a single fixed answer. It is about staying curious. It is about being open to change. It is about allowing yourself to evolve. The gifts of the wound. I want to offer you a perspective that may be new to you. Your wound has gifts. I know that sounds paradoxical. How can something that caused you so much pain have gifts? But the truth is, the qualities you developed to survive your trauma, the sensitivity, the empathy, the resilience, the depth, are also your greatest strengths. Your sensitivity makes you attuned to others. It makes you a good listener, a compassionate friend, an empathetic partner. Your resilience makes you strong. You have survived things that would have broken others. You have a depth of character that comes from overcoming adversity. Your depth makes you wise. You have been to the dark places. You have faced the abyss. You have a perspective on life that others lack. Your compassion makes you a healer. You know what it is like to suffer. You know what it is like to be broken. You can hold space for others in their pain. These are not weaknesses. These are gifts. They are the gifts of the wound. The wound did not make you broken. It made you deep. It made you strong. It made you wise. It made you compassionate. The unburdened life. What does it look like to live an unburdened life? It looks like freedom. You are free from the tyranny of the inner critic. You are free from the grip of the past. You are free to be who you really are. Joy. You can experience joy without waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can laugh without guilt. You can enjoy the present moment. Peace. You can rest. You can be still. You can feel safe in your own body. You can sleep without nightmares. You can wake up without dread. Connection. You can love without fear. You can be seen without shame. You can be vulnerable without terror. You can connect with others from a place of authenticity, purpose. You can find meaning in your life. You can use your gifts to help others. You can contribute to the world in a way that feels true to who you are. Presence. You can be here now. You can experience life as it unfolds. You can be fully alive in each moment. This is the unburdened life. It is the life that awaits you on the other side of the healing journey. The journey is not over. I want to be honest with you. The journey is not over. Healing is not a destination. It is a practice. It is a way of being. It is something you do every day. There will be setbacks. There will be days when the old stories creep back in, when the critic is loud, when the exiles are activated, when you feel like you are back at square one. This is normal. This is part of the process. It does not mean you have failed. It means you are human. The difference now is that you have tools. You have skills. You have awareness. When the old patterns arise, you can see them for what they are. You can pause. You can breathe. You can choose a different response. You are no longer a victim of your past. You are a survivor. You are a thriver. You are the author of your own story. A letter to the reader. I want to close this book with a letter to you, the reader. Dear reader, I don't know you, but I know something about you. I know you have suffered. I know you have struggled. I know you have carried a weight that was never meant to be yours to carry. I know you have felt like something was wrong with you, like you didn't measure up, like you weren't enough, like you had no worth. And I want to tell you, that was never the truth. That was the voice of the wound. That was the echo of the past. The truth is that you are not broken. You are not defective. You are not a mistake. You are a human being who adapted to survive a difficult environment. The truth is that you are enough. You have always been enough. You were enough before you achieved anything. You were enough before you proved anything. You were enough before you earned anything. The truth is that you are worthy of love. You are worthy of being seen. You are worthy of being held. You are worthy of connection. You are worthy of joy. You are worthy of peace. You are worthy of everything good. This book has been a guide, but the real work is yours. Only you can heal your wounds. Only you can befriend your parts. Only you can rewrite your narrative. Only you can discover your true essence. But you are not alone. There are others who have walked this path. There are others who are walking it now. And there are others who will walk it after you. We are all connected. We are all healing. We are all finding our way home. I am honored to have walked part of the journey with you. I wish you all the healing, all the love, and all the joy that life has to offer. With deep compassion and hope, the author. The final chapter, Coming Home. This is the final chapter of this book, but it is the beginning of a new chapter in your life. You have done the work. You have faced the darkness. You have found the light. You have come home to yourself. The journey was long. It was hard. There were times when you wanted to give up, but you didn't. You kept going. You kept showing up. You kept healing. And now, you are here. You are standing on the threshold of a new life. A life that is free from the grip of the past. A life that is full of possibility. A life that is truly your own. This is your essence. This is who you really are. Welcome home. The end. Epilogue. A practice for the journey ahead. The book is over, but the journey continues. Here is a simple practice to carry with you as you move forward. The daily check-in. Every day, take a few minutes to check in with yourself. Breathe. Take 3 deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Scan. Do a quick body scan. Notice any tension, tightness, or discomfort. Ask yourself, how am I doing? What do I need today? Listen to the answers. They may come as words, sensations, or images. Respond with compassion. Give yourself what you need. The weekly reflection. Once a week, take a longer moment to reflect. Celebrate. What went well this week? What did you handle well? What are you proud of? Learn. What was challenging? What triggered you? What can you learn from it? Grow. What do you want to focus on next week? What skill do you want to practice? The lifelong practice. Healing is a lifelong practice. It is not about reaching a destination. It is about showing up day after day with compassion and courage. Be patient. Change takes time. Be patient with yourself. Be kind. Speak to yourself as you would to a beloved friend. Be curious. Stay open to learning and growing. Be brave. Keep stepping into the unknown. Be connected. Reach out to others. Ask for help. Offer support. You have everything you need. The self is within you. The healing is within you. The life you have always wanted is within your reach. Go live it.